other channels do it, and it's just like a clock ticking. We're here, we're live, we're coming at you. Just to peel back the curtain for a second. Actually, we're going to peel back the curtain a couple times today. But before we went live, before we streamed, before we broadcast, Agnew and I were talking about he installed a light in the studio behind him to not the most professional degree, but he had like a whole array of random like mountings that he had from his daughter's security camera. He bought like a variety pack.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how unorganized he is, but he always knows where it all is. And then when he tries to organize everything, he can't find anything.
Yeah.
And that was always one of my frustrations about you, because you were also a super procrastinator, but you had
The
you
key
had
word is
better grades.
was.
Are you not anymore?
Yeah.
That's
No,
not
I'm
allowed
a
anymore.
horrible procrastinator still. I have not outgrown it. Nobody's showed me how to get past it. I am
Yeah,
still.
but you procrastinate and are successful. That's the thing that I got confused. I was like, I thought procrastinators just never got anything done.
No, we get
You
things done. We just have extreme anxiety about it.
is it anxiety like leading up to it?
Well, you just know you're not getting it done, right? So it's like I think some people put it as like it's the dragon that you're fighting, right? You just don't want to look at it. If you don't look at it, it's not there. So if there's something you need to do, as long as you ignore it and push it off, then you don't actually have to face it. And half the time, like the things I put off are the dumbest things. Like it honestly takes like half a second. It'll be like hanging a picture, but I'll walk by the picture for 3 months. I'll be like, oh, I don't have the right nail. I gotta get that. I gotta get that. I have 1.5-inch nails and 2-inch nails, but I need like 1 3/7 or something.
But you were the one like filling out like applications and visiting colleges and like getting,
yes, I'm still
like
18, Philly.
getting schools that wanted you to go there.
I mean, I didn't get into. I wanted to go to Rensselaer, and they didn't let me in. I thought that would have been cool to be
Where's
there.
that?
That's like in upstate New York. It's
Oh, right.
it's
RISD?
yeah,
No,
it's
that's
nice. They
design,
had
right?
they had really cool like technology
Yeah.
classrooms. Like they had smart boards before every classroom in the world had smart boards.
Oh, no way.
So it was pretty neat to be in there, and I actually found it more impressive than MIT.
I was
But that's just a
just going
sentence.
to ask you.
That's just a sentence I like to say to sound like some sort of schmuck.
Well, it's not like the common, because I
It's
was going to
like
say, I remember
when do
you
you get
went
to
to
dish an
MIT.
insult? When do you get to dish an insult to MIT?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's pretty good.
maybe
And
after you watch Beautiful Mind or something, then you're like, those jerks.
I remember going to the theater with such an unrealistic anticipation for that, or expectation for that movie, because Russell Crowe was in it. I thought it was going to be like Gladiator,
Yeah,
and I was like,
it was not like
"This is the
Gladiator. That's for
opposite of
sure. Yeah,
Gladiator. He is a mathematician gladiator
it
at
was. I
best."
mean, yeah, it's definitely that's one of my rewatchable movies, though. Beautiful Mind, and actually Cinderella Man. Also, they're both very rainy day rewatchable movies. Like if it's on, I'll watch it. It doesn't, because you always try to remember the sequence of events that led from one to the other, and I can never keep track of it.
Right, the rewatching fills
Yeah.
uh, in between like the moments that you hold on to. Is Cinderella Man Russell Crowe?
Uh, is it Russell Crowe? Yeah, I think it's Russell Crowe. Yeah.
He's really great. He
He's
was.
real. That I like that movie. That movie has so many good parts in it, like how the family's starving and the son steals like a sausage or something, and he makes him bring it back even though he has like nothing to eat, and he keeps giving all his kids all his food. He's like, oh, I'm stuffed. Like you eat my meat, and they're just eating like little slivers of bologna like every day, like
He's
one
such a
piece,
good
And, oh,
actor. God, he's so good. I like always knew he was good, and then like I've seen a couple of his things, something really recent, and then something Master and Commander, a long time ago.
yeah.
And he's just so great in both of them, like 20 years apart. He's just a
He's very committed. I think
yes.
there. I still
That's
think
all I'm asking for.
there's like certain roles that like him as Zeus wasn't the best, right? But I mean, like that whole movie was kind of wonky. That probably wasn't
It
even
fit the
actually
movie.
his performance probably would have been fine. Like I saw some of the deleted scenes, and I'm like, oh, that actually
Right, where he was like talking to Thor and
where he's
yeah.
actually like a father figure and
Right,
stuff. You're
right.
like, oh, okay. I could. Where's this movie? I would have watched
Right.
this movie. Just make it all about Zeus and Thor. Like just do that. You've
Yeah,
got
like
Russell Crowe.
you have
Like
the Oscar winner.
why would you
Let
use
him
him
do his thing.
in a joke strip scene? Like it just doesn't make sense.
It was like such a misuse of Russell Crowe, and I was like, is this going to discourage, those type of actor? But anyway, um,
That's a whole other thing.
we right, and so kind of bouncing off your procrastination and organized disorganization. Dude, I guess it started like the day. I mean, it had to have started before that. I just never brought it up on the last show because it was before 9/11. It was before the 22nd anniversary of 9/11
Yeah.
that I have been utterly consumed. There's no other way to say it. If I'm on my phone and I have free time, I'm watching footage of the day.
Because it floats back up. It floats back up every year to the surface, and you get like Regis and Kelly and
No,
Stern and no. Oh, okay, sorry.
no, that dude, and see, this is why it's kind of odd to me because I just out of nowhere, maybe like a week before 9/11 or whatever, I was like, I want to see some shit because I feel like that day, the days afterwards, and all the way up till now, I was kind of like, I don't understand. I mean, I understand, but now that I'm 42 and I have children, and it's like all of a sudden it's like the maturity level of whatever is, understanding what happened that day is like is feeling it's dude, it's like this. It's not debilitating, but it's really, really been hard. Like sense of helplessness where I was like, God damn it. And I'm like, am I watching all of this footage? Like, by now there is every single second of every angle that was ever, rolling that day
Right.
available. And then the interviews with the survivors telling the stories. And I'm like, it's crazy because why is it all of a sudden happening? Like I just can't stop. Like if I try to watch another show, I'll be like, maybe there's another angle of the plane hitting tower.
Oh man, yeah, you're going deep
Yeah,
into
man,
it.
and
Yeah.
it's like I can't listen to the 911 calls. I can't listen to the pilots. I can't listen to people leaving messages. I can't watch people jumping out.
Yeah.
But everything else, I'm like, I want to know. I just it was like my neighbor's house was burning to the ground, and I didn't have a hose. It was like you're watching these videos, dude, of people running through the streets, and these New Yorkers. It's like I want to cry because I'm so proud of them because they're screaming at each other because they're trying to save one another. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
that
right.
New York, like it's like when they band together or when shit hits the fan, it's like they're the ones you want on your side.
Right, right, right.
And for those of you who don't know, from the mid 90s to the early 2000s, Agnew was the type of friend who would call you for any reason, an emergency or the negative into the -5 class of emergency. So that morning when I was woken by a phone call at like 8:40, 8:50, it was like right after the tower got hit, or it was a minute before the second plane hit. You
Yeah,
called me,
right.
and I'm in my dorm, and it's a landline phone, so I don't even know who it is. And I answered, it's Agnew, and he's like, turn on the TV. And there's been so many times in our past where Agnew has called me because we didn't have the cell phone text convenience,
No,
and
you had
he
to
was
pay for each text. It
he
was
was captured by something on television and was like, "Turn on your TV and watch what I'm watching." So I'm like, you woke me up, so I'm not going to do that. And you were like, "Well, we're about to go to war," and I was like, "We're always about to go to war." Like, okay, like what does that even mean? And and with
so
that,
dramatic. Yeah.
my roommate runs in from the other room and hit, like, I remember him smacking my TV, and it popped on one of those big old TVs that looked like a tooth,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and CBS or whatever news is going, and we see the two towers and we see the smoke coming out of the one, and then the plane hits the other one, and I got dressed, and this is like the first time I'm ever thinking about this moment. What did I do after that? I got dressed and I went to class. I went to English. And I sat there in English class, and my teacher is up at her desk. And at that point, at that time, they had laptops. And my teacher's going through the lesson, and she keeps going back to doing this, like going back to her computer, And I'm like, what's actually going on there? Like, and in the middle of class, she's like, guys, I don't know if you've heard about what's going on in New York, but if you need to go home, you can go home. So I left and I came home. What happened to you that day? Because obviously I wasn't there, but you were the person who woke me up to tell me it was going on. Not my mom, not my dad, not my brother. It was you.
I think it was. I think it was because you started back at
In
Penn
Penn State
State, and
earlier.
I started later at Drexel, right? So we didn't start until late in September.
The smart procrastinators, as usual.
It's the trimester thing, which I think they're actually getting rid of now. So,
Try
but
right.
anyway, yeah, it was like three. You only had 3 semesters um, through the year. Anyway, but the
I remember that.
I was at Thompson. I was at Thompson Toyota or Thompson BMW, um, cleaning cars, running the. I was, we were the lot boys. We worked that job together, and then you were in detail sometimes too. Um,
Yeah, we worked
we're-
all the like slightly above intern positions at a car dealership.
it was fine. It was fun. It was great.
Great
You
summer
learned.
job.
I learned to drink water, lots and lots of water.
Yeah.
It was like I was like a professional water drinker because it was hot and you just sat outside and they wouldn't really let you sit inside because you were also covered in stuff. But you'd drive around and you'd pull a car into a car wash and then the car wash would be on. You just sit in the car. You're supposed to get out and clean it, but most of the time we just sat in the car, and then because they were really comfortable BMWs, it was
Oh yeah, it
nice.
would take like a real long time spraying it with the soap.
Yeah, well, you just pretend. You'd be like, oh, I didn't get out in time, and we can't, I can't get it.
The machine, yeah.
It'll spray in the windows. So, like, I guess I'll just stay in here and just listen to the radio. And so,
For the
even though
stern.
we'd get in trouble for it, yeah, it would be morning. So I turn everyone's radio, no matter what they were listening to, over to Stern. If you were really good at it, you'd memorize what the person had on previously, so you wouldn't get in trouble. So you remember what they're listening to, what volume level they were at, switch it to Stern, turn it up, and then make sure you get it back there when you go and park it.
Exactly.
So a lot of the story was fed to me through this cycle. So
Oh.
I would be sitting outside in silence, and then I would get in a car, and then I'd have access to the radio, and I'd wash the car, and then come out, and then go and park it. So I'd only have these.
I just got to remind everyone because I know it's like an instinct now to be like, weren't you looking on your phone? There
Yeah,
wasn't any of that.
no, we had like flip phones, I think, at that point.
You play
Like,
Snake.
yeah, we had like the Nokia phones or something at that point, or I had those ugly ones. I forget what those like it was like Qualcomm, some middle terrible one that was like if you pressed it too hard, it snapped. Um, but so that's what I really remember from the day because I remember
That's
that
hilarious.
rotation, right? So and then as I walked in, you drop the keys off and then go back through where all the mechanics were, and you could go by the break room and see the TV. So I remember going around and parking a car, and in the middle of it, like Stern interrupted while I was parking this car, and he said, "Oh my gosh, like a somebody's
The
plane
Gary
hit
came in.
it was just a tiny plane, someone just lost their way and they flew into the World Trade Center and stuff." And I was like, "Whoa, like that's crazy." And then, I walked in and I was in the break room, and then I could see it on the TV, and I was like, "Oh man, like that's nuts," and then went back and sitting around waiting for the next car, get the next car, get in, and then like get like a little bit more of the story. And they're like, "Whoa." And he was doing a great job that morning because he was getting people to, like, tons of people were calling in. So of
Right.
all the information, he was, hanging up on people and call and get taking an answer
Yeah.
from somebody else. And like, if there was an internet, that was essentially,
Yes.
he
Stern
was
was like the
basically Twitter
Twitter.
that day. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
X or whatever. Right. So
Yeah. All
he
right.
was, he was getting like little pieces from all over the city. And like all the comedy left, he went right into kind of like a reporter mode. So, I kind of stuck with that. um but remember, nobody thought it was an attack until the second plane hit. And really, even when the second plane hit, people thought the fire had just spread over to the other building.
Right.
Like, not
Right.
everybody saw it, like
Right.
it's
Because
not.
the building was hiding the other one from a lot of angles.
Yeah, there was also so much replay, because like nobody had the or I don't maybe they do now, but nobody had like the first impact on TV,
Right.
right? So nobody knew exactly what. It's not like they like, oh wait, they threw the red flag and like you go back, like you couldn't go back and see it. So they kept replaying like some live footage and some old footage, and then all of a sudden they cut and went to both buildings are on fire.
Oh my
And
God.
I think the point where I called you,
I
because I
probably saw
remember
it.
I was coming back through the break room, and now everybody was like
Freaking
watching
out.
it. Like everybody kind of had stopped, and
Mhm.
everybody was kind of piled into the break room. And I think what I saw was the second. I saw the second. I know you saw it, but I think there's also like a million replays that
Yeah,
day.
I probably saw a replay, or maybe I saw one of them coming down
Yeah, yeah.
because
So
it may
so
have been like an hour later.
yeah, yeah. So when I saw the second plane uh, hit, then I was like, oh, that,
Not an accident.
like, all the logic just goes out it's like, because
Your optimism is just destroyed at that
no, 'cause,
moment.
yeah, it's not, there's
Oh.
like an accident, and then also it looks a little big, so you're like, that looks
So
bigger than just like a little prop plane. Like I feel like a prop plane would just disintegrate, like on
tough.
like break a window maybe,
And a
you
hard
know.
building to miss.
Yeah,
It's
and
really hard.
then so then the second one came, and it was like, and that was like huge. I mean, that was like a huge explosion, and that was like live on the TV, so they could replay that a bunch. And yeah, so then I remember I went outside and like at the bench where they wait for the cars, and I think I don't remember if I called my parents first, or I think I called you first. I think you were the first person I called because I didn't know if I was overreacting too. So I just was like, I need someone else to be sane with me, because it's like the mechanics were nice, but they were also kind of like, you know.
I was so off guard. I was like, you know, okay, like
I do. I do.
and you were like a plane hit the building, and I was like, it could have been an accident.
Yeah. It was just that second one, and then I remember the one mechanic that always used to wear a Superman shirt, and he's like,
Yeah.
and I remember he like looked at me and he's like, if there was a day where I wish this was real, this shirt, like I wish today was that day. And I was like, yeah.
It was weird, dude. From all the stuff that I'm bouncing around, there's like some guys who knew what it was immediately. Like someone else will be like, and that's when they said, those monsters, they got us. Like Kelly Ripa was like, Regis knew exactly what was going on before the second plane hit, because he was there in '93, and there was the story about the guy saying like, we'll be back and we'll knock them down.
Hmm.
Yeah, like when they were helicoptering one of these terrorists back to somewhere, one of our guys was like, "You didn't get it, you didn't knock it down," and they were like, "We'll be back and we'll get them both."
It was it was tough, and then you didn't know what to do. It was a lot like we kind of had that again, I guess, with the pandemic, where you're like,
I'm not gonna
is
die.
is the world still spinning? Like, what happens now? Like, are we all going to lose it?
I think it was like, I'm gonna still be okay. It's the curse of living in the suburbs of Philadelphia. There are no natural disasters. There's nothing too insane going on where we live. So it's like when the insane things happen and they don't affect us, it's kind of just like, I guess, like I kept hearing like survivor's guilt, like the people that made it on 9/11 with the people that didn't, and I'm like, get over it. But now I'm like, oh, I totally understand it.
Well, I think there's not much we could do in that situation
Right.
except for get everybody together, right? And
Yeah.
I think the important thing is that given if you were faced with the situation where you could have done something, chances are you probably would have, you know? I mean, I think that's why that like the scene of Bruce Wayne running into the dust, like running towards it,
Yeah.
was such a big deal. Just like the Boston Marathon, like when you saw video of the explosion happens and within 10 seconds everybody is running towards it.
Yeah.
Like another one could go off at any second. Like nobody knows what's happening. There could be 7 of these, you know, but everybody's running towards it. Like everybody's running towards the danger. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of it. I think in the end we want to be together. I think we want to help each other out. And I also think that we're all looking for some sort of journey to go on. I mean, that's why we like things like Star Wars. That's why we like things like superheroes. Like we want to have that journey. Like any of us would stop right now and bring our family on a Lord of the Rings journey if we could, even if it was dangerous, because it would just be something different than the grind. Like what we're doing right now with work and things like that. Like besides the living through our kids and enjoying what the things that they're enjoying, the journey isn't like an adventure,
No.
right?
No. No. It's like a slog.
That's why, like, yeah, if I'm out with people and we start talking about what shows we're watching, I'm like,
What?
I can't have this conversation
Oh,
with you.
right. Right.
No,
No.
just because it's like
It's too
it just
inside.
shows, well, it just shows the void. It's just it's a fine conversation to have. I'm not knocking anybody that
I like
has
to
a
use it as like
conversation.
a springboard to a real conversation. Like, what is the theme in the show, and then
See, for me, I always feel
turn
like
that into life.
it's coming more down. Like we've run out of our own stories from the week. We've run out of all of our stuff, and now we're just like we're
Oh,
we're
oh. See,
basically in kindergarten going, "What's your favorite color?" You know.
I use it as like an icebreaker. Like a subtle icebreaker. Like,
If
you
I
guys
don't know the
watch
people, yeah,
anything
sure,
new?
sure, sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If they're new, like Heather and I are going out to dinner with this couple for the second time on Saturday, and first time was great. Love the wife. That's been a weird spot for me.
You share
Sometimes
funny
I'm,
things on this
I'm
podcast.
kind of like,
Like I don't.
hmm. I'm like, they don't understand me at all, and I don't have the energy to make them. They'll get there. But this girl like was right on the same wavelength with me right away.
Yeah,
Just picking up my jokes that Heather was missing, and uh, but I'm like, we did that.
yeah.
Y- You know, that was kind of like the
What's that?
I was mad.
Are you being haunted?
I know.
Oh,
Why?
oh, oh, Max barking.
Why is she barking? There might just be a dog outside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Heather is like deaf. I always forget we're broadcasting live right now.
That's what I keep trying to say.
No, I mean I know.
It's raw and uncut.
Yeah, and I mean this is what they get for not learning about me and being weird or shy. I hate that. That's like my biggest pet peeve is when people are shy around me, and I get it until
Why,
you
why,
meet me.
why are they
Like when
shy? What do you mean?
like they don't. I don't know. They just aren't like
Are
who
you sure
they
people
are
aren't like
around other
socially
people.
awkward? Like some people, I feel like a lot of people are awkward. I feel like a lot of people leaned into like the pandemic, not to bring it up twice in one conversation, but like a lot of people came out and were like, "Oh, I don't know how to
Second
talk with
wife.
people anymore." And I'm like, "What?" Like I never really wanted to be around. Like Kelly knows me pretty well, so she says, you say you don't like being around people until you're around people, and then you're perfectly fine. But it's like I don't want to put myself near people.
This is what I talked to my shrink about this week. How I'm like, why do I not feel like doing the things I know I enjoy once I get there? Like
Yeah.
I feel like a kid. Like I remember, Betty and Jeff would be like, "All right, we're going to this," and I would, "I don't want to go," and then it always ended with, "I don't want to leave."
Yeah. And now we get to live that with our kids constantly.
Yeah, yeah, but I still have it.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like, did it go away?
no, I mean, I think we're battling a few things too. I mean, like we have our phones and all this other nonsense that's like serotoning us up like chimps in a cage. Like
I know, man.
it's so hard. Like I've uninstalled YouTube and uninstalled Twitter like
I
three
know.
times a week. It's just too easy to install. Like I need someone to like put a password over it so I can't install it again. Or there's some stupid reason why I need it. Like, oh, is the pool open today? I need to go check it because they posted on their Twitter. You know,
Twitter? You look at Twitter?
Twitter is
This is a
it's
cesspool,
garbage and it just keeps throwing it at you.
but it's
No, but I mean, I
so
uninstall it over and over. It's like,
they're designed for when you turn on your phone for you to go to something other than what you were initially opening your phone for.
what's the thing that they give people for methadone? You know how they give people methadone for heroin? Like when I installed TikTok the one time, that was like heroin. And then every once in a while, I just go to Twitter as like a methadone treatment. Like,
Treatment.
like that's what it feels like. It feels like it's like, all right, I just want a little bit of craziness. I want to be able to end when I want to end. The problem with
Right.
TikTok is like you don't get to choose.
It's
It's
very,
like like it reaches out and grabs you. Like the
and
Twitter, I'm like, I don't need a manscaped ad. Goodbye. Like I'm done. So I'm out.
yeah, I don't go on Twitter ever. I just post my thing on it and then get the hell out of it. Like I literally run out away from that app. I physically am like, "Woo!" I'm like, don't, because it's fucking designed to be like,
Yeah, it's
come
like,
back
yes.
here. We have
Oh,
something creepy for you
would
to
you
look
like some
at.
bugles,
Some
little boy?
famous people are fighting. It's like, oh no, there's a divorce.
Well, I mean, I might as well just check to see what's happening so I can make conversation.
I always check sometimes the one thing I do on other videos is I'll just check the first comment. It's almost like a litmus test on humanity. It's like what comment got the most likes? Is it negative or is it positive?
Yeah.
And it's like 90% of the time it's like just talking shit about how someone looks. That's like
Oh,
all it
like
is.
on a
It's like
video.
comment on appearance. Yeah, that's it.
That's one thing I don't. That's one thing that actually shuts me down. Like when people would make fun of Trump and stuff, it's like there's so much stuff to make fun of, but once they started talking about like his hands or his orange face or something like that, I'm like, well, maybe not his orange face because that's kind of a choice, but I mean but like any sort of physical aspect of him, I'm like, I'm out.
I'm like
Like
that is it's like your last bomb you drop. It's
yeah,
like you don't pull that one because the guy has provided so many, things that he had control over, apparently.
you had to get provoked,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're gonna start throwing out those type of insults, you got provoked.
Someone made fun of like a relative or yeah, right. Like that person made it personal.
Yeah,
So then you have to kind of end it.
but yeah, the ripping on how somebody looks, I'm like, that's not really the thing.
I'm like,
Especially on traits where they can't change it. If they've like
right.
plastic surgery themselves to like not look like themselves anymore, then it's like, all right, I kind of get it.
But then I'm also like the people that like do the plastic surgery and then people destroy them. I'm like, you are nudging them off the ledge that
Oh,
they
well,
were
that's not
already
cool.
standing
Yeah,
on.
no, yeah. I mean,
It's like they already wanted to look better and now they look worse
that's true.
and you're making it even worse.
Yeah.
It's just
Sorry,
like,
Cameron Diaz, but I
yeah,
liked
like
you in The Mask
Madonna.
better. Well,
Like,
Madonna is like,
God, what the heck? She was it. Like she was so out of every man's league, in my opinion. I remember at one point, like the '90s,
She was in a league of her own. Sorry.
and in that movie,
Right.
like in that movie, she was so cool, and she just was kind of like playing herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madonna was such a badass, and now I'm like, I thought she was gonna like age gracefully.
Well, I think we just didn't like notice her, but it's just well, you've planted a psyche, and she's probably surrounded by people going like, "You're the best, like you are the best, you are the best," and it's just so then she's like, "Hey, how about if I do this thing to my face?" And they're like, "Do it. That's a great idea." And it's
As
like,
long as I'm on the payroll
yeah, it's
tomorrow.
like, yeah, I'm your best friend.
She fires all the people. You told me to do this. No, I look like a blowfish.
Well, there's definitely a psychosis there. I don't know what it is, but
Madonna. I mean, you named yourself Madonna.
I mean, you need those warning, those warning fables, like for kids, right? So it's like, look, you go down that path, like that's where it ends. That's what you become. And again, like this is what I really
Who
liked
will
about that
you?
Johnny Depp trial, because it was like it's not all golden mansions and niceness. It's like, yeah, you
It
know
like
what,
never
you have
is.
that second summer home, but someone's throwing wine in your face while you're there. It's like, still want it, like
I
you're on a yacht
know.
but someone's pooping on your bed. It's like it's kind of like a would you rather almost.
I know. Dude, I think about that all the time, and I'm like, is that a cop out, or is it just like, no? It definitely seems like something I wouldn't be able to handle. Like,
Yeah.
um, I don't know.
So on that level,
It's
it's like
gross.
of the adventures that we think people are having,
And that we think we want.
that doesn't seem like such a great adventure.
No.
I
I
think that I
remember
think the best adventures are like at this point. I think some of the best adventures are like the private adventures you have. I think if you take something and you kind of just show it all along your entire path of every part of it, it's not yours anymore. And so then you get to the end of it and you're like, well, none of that was for me. Like Madonna probably went through all of these things, and in the beginning it was probably for her, but probably from like 20 on it wasn't.
oh my God.
And then she's trying to chase, she's like, oh wait, I need to do the thing that I want to do. What is that again?
Right.
And then it's like a self-defining thing. Now I know nothing about Madonna, so besides like a few songs, like and A
No,
League of Their
but
Own, that's it.
dude, but I mean, I think you're kind of onto something. Like, she, that was like her thing. She always would like change her image every couple years, and everybody was always like, Madonna. She always evolves. She always keeps it fresh. And it was almost like, is she even aware, or is it just like this team that's like, all right, we're gonna dress you up like this now, and then we're gonna dress you up like this now, and she's just kind of like, I'm still Madonna though.
I
I
think
don't
I,
know.
I think her Britney kiss was like the end
God,
for both of them. Like it was just like,
yeah.
hi, I'm media. You two are going to go on stage and kiss. And next year we're going to have Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson do something terrible.
At the
It's going
Super
to be
Bowl.
awesome. We're going to get so many views. It's going to be amazing. And like we're just going to eat you up and chew you out and spit you out, and it's just like it was like watching, I don't know, like elephants getting tortured. Like just animals like in the
What?
circus or something. Just like you might as well have had two people like prodding them,
Oh,
with like
right.
electric prods, like get together and kiss. Come on, it's gonna be amazing. Like it's so gross.
It,
Like thinking back to it. Like at the time, we reacted just like everybody else, but it was like these
well, yeah.
big scenes where everything was supposed to blow up and it was supposed to be the biggest occurrence or something like that, and they're so wild, and then it's
I
like,
know, but it's like, okay, why is that wild? Because Madonna and Britney, and they kissed. Okay.
for 13-year-olds.
And
It's
then
it's
what?
it's for 13-year-olds, like we probably were at the time, right? Like well, no, we were probably older, but it was the 13-year-old logic of, um, I think I know what I'm seeing. I don't, but I'm damn never gonna tell anybody that I don't know what I'm seeing, or
I'm
that I can't
pretty
explain it, or that I can't explain what happens next.
pretty
You know?
sure I'm supposed to like this.
Yeah, it's like,
But
right, bro.
I think this says something about how in check my ego is. My fantasies wouldn't even allow that scenario to continue beyond the case. It was so fucking unrealistic. I was like,
Your brain's
well, yeah,
like, no,
it's a
like
neat picture, but it's like you're
aim
not. No,
lower.
no, 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 no. They're walking out of here. They're not even here.
You didn't even ask that girl
Poof.
to dance at the last dance. It's like,
Yeah.
like what in
If
what
you can't
world?
get the overweight, flat-chested chick across the street, what makes you even in your fantasies this is going to happen? It's not even a person. I just described an imaginary human.
It is true. He didn't have
Never
anybody
happened. I would
across
have
the
never
street
lived across the street from a flat-chested.
because you had a choice. Oh my god! But yeah, I mean, like you don't know. Nobody knows anything. Like you're still figuring it out. You know, like
We were like, I was like 25. So in the moment, I was like, well, there's a poster they'll sell 1,000 of, but it was like, yeah, it was just like, I'm trying to think of a scene in a movie where like the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, I all but heard the director say action. You know what I mean? Like I talk about this often, where like you can see the strings, like you can see it all, not as if you're supposed to be when you're watching a movie. You can like see it being made.
yeah,
I just can't think of an example, but that's what that felt like. It
like
was just
something that
like,
pulls you out of it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
could pick any scene from the Star Wars prequels. Any scene will do that for you.
right. Like
Because he's
anytime.
like, say that line. All right, good. Now say that line that was from 5 minutes ago. I know there's no flow here, but just
Well,
say some.
I'd like another try. No, I'll fix it in post.
No, just cut it together. They're not even there. I guess they did that with the they did something like that. I was just watching the Sin City background, and like when they did Sin City, they none of the actors were on site together.
Oh,
Like, or
weird.
maybe like two of them at one point, but like almost all the scenes, like this was shot like 3 months ago. This was shot like in the last 2 weeks. This was shot like 2 days before they went to editing,
Zack
and
Snyder.
they were just all on green screen, and they didn't actually see each other. So almost everybody in that movie didn't see each other.
How crazy.
But because I think it was in that format, I think it worked. But I think
Right.
in most formats it wouldn't. Like,
Yeah, you got to be an amazing director, I think, and use your actor to like their one absolute best thing that they can do.
right, exactly, yeah.
And it's like I'm like thinking of that cast, and I'm like, no wonder it worked. Everybody's cutting monologues,
Oops, excuse me.
but I've never seen it.
You never saw Sin City?
I
Oh, I
know.
hate saying that. Damn,
No, but I that is
fell right into it.
it's one of those. It's an ongoing joke on the podcast. So it's like if someone says that like they haven't seen
Yeah,
one of those kind of movies, you just get berated with the word blasphemy, but it's just turned into like a 3 minute, obnoxious ongoing gag. But
I don't know if it would even hold up. I don't know if it would hold up. I mean,
I've heard it has recently, and I'm like, I need to freaking watch this thing.
it is like
I heard
it's
it
like
does.
watching a comic book. It's probably the best rendition of a comic book coming to life.
Yeah.
I'd maybe
Zack
put like
Snyder,
Scott.
right?
I'd probably put like Scott Pilgrim up there maybe as well. But I think that like not that didn't have the same artistic. That had its own artistic style, but the Sin City was almost like trademark with the
Yeah.
dark and white, and then like color only in certain places.
It's like how he did 300. Isn't it Zack Snyder who did Sin City? Or was it
Yeah,
someone?
yeah, no, I mean he was only going to do it if Frank Miller was with him doing it. So he they shot a like a sample scene, and they just with his own money, and they just tried to recreate some scene and then edit it and put all like the filters on it and everything, like to kind of give him an idea of the final product. And he showed it to Frank Miller, and that's when like Frank Miller agreed. So
Oh wow, Snyder, man, he is like the master of detail.
yeah, it was good. No matter like even if you don't like the style or the story or anything, like
Still a good movie.
it still looks like a comic book. Like I don't care.
Wow, I got to check it out. Uh, I think I'll check that out sooner rather than later. Um, Yo, I watched a show, a TV show on Apple TV Plus.
Mm.
I don't recommend the show, but it's so good. Like I don't know how to like say that. It was gripping and powerful, but like indescribably dark.
Mm.
It's called The Changeling, and it's like a crazy look at so far postpartum depression. So I mean, I'm guessing you haven't seen it either, or you haven't seen it
I haven't seen that,
because
and that definitely sounds like something that is gonna. If it's gonna be me, it's gonna be me watching it alone. I don't
mm,
think Kelly can handle that. Like
no
I had
way.
to flip out at the nursing staff when they played the shaking the baby video, and because like
What?
before you leave the hospital, they made us watch like the don't shake your baby video, which is just like a video of like an angry dad, like shut up, shut up, shut up, and I'm like, why are we watching this right now? Like we just had the baby, like I get it, but like also
Are
like
you insane?
you're also putting us in a really, I wrote them like a
Read the
6 page
room.
paper of like, hey, if you want, maybe show this to us like 2 months before or a month before, but not while I'm holding the baby.
Not while the ears of the child are absorbing it.
Like I get,
It's not a good
yeah,
note.
it's just
Yeah, I get for not you and Kelly though.
yeah, we
Okay,
were like,
read
yeah.
the room. This is not going to be an issue.
So when we had Leo, I was like, just give it to me. Like you know, like again
Give
in the League of Their Own, you know, like when they come in with the letter and he's like, give me the letter, and he's like, you know, I forgot the name. I got to go back to the office. And he's like, give me the goddamn letter, you know, and he like rips it out of the guy's hand. That was like me with their assignment. I was like, I'll watch the video. And they're like, no, I think you guys both have. I'm like, just give it to me. I'll watch the video, you know. So then I just like had to watch it over
They
again.
make you, dude. That is, I mean, that is
I
something
guess there's lots of people
that
shaking babies. I don't know.
I
Like
would be like,
maybe
get
it
out
saves
of my
lives.
face. This was a St. Jude school. I don't have to watch your video. Get out of
There were
get
some
get out of
people
here.
like when we had yeah, when we had Ruby, like we were in a room that was shared with another family, and when they came in, they just like ignored the baby the whole time. They were like, "Oh wait, does this place have HBO? Great!" And they just like threw on like Game of Thrones or Sopranos or whatever, and just started watching. And the baby's like, "I'm like, can I go pick up your baby, please?" And
Was the
then
baby
they
crying?
came in and they were like, "Oh, here I'm like the lactation nurse. Like, do you want to learn how to breastfeed and stuff? Are you having any trouble?" And they're like, "No, we're not going to do that." It's like, and the nurse was like, "All right." I mean, everybody can make their own choices, but it was very cold. Like the baby was like upset. Like there was no attention. Like there was only a curtain between us, so it's not like I couldn't,
I remember
like we could
driving
basically see
home.
each other.
Like I remember leaving with the baby and like carrying it and being like, "Oh my god, this is mine now."
Yeah.
And even like driving, I was like, "Oh my god, like no one else is gonna.
Where is
I
there a
have to do it all.
chaperone or
I have to
something?
do it all." Like that was the weird. That was a weird. So I feel like that these guys are like that, but like even further away from like reality. Like they're like, oh, whatever. We'll take care of it eventually.
Yeah. No, they
Like
were
to
like,
be
as soon
that
as they came
checked
in, they were
out.
like, "Hey, let's watch some HBO." I was like, And this was like the next morning, so I had just like
Oh,
Kelly had passed out from obvious exhaustion,
right.
and I was just like just staring at Ruby like this, like all night, just like, all right, I should probably get some rest. And then it's like, all right, and I like start falling asleep, and he'd be like, I'm like, oh my god, is it dying? Oh my god, she's dying, And I was just,
Hannah wouldn't even cry. She would just be like, and I'd be like,
yeah, just those like little
babe,
noises, like
feed
there's
her,
like
feed her.
little like,
Yeah,
like those little like mouth noises.
like they're choking on their tongue.
Yeah. Like their minuscule like short flat tongue.
Yeah,
It's like, but yeah, no, I mean, you don't know, and then later on you realize you're like, oh wait, the bodies seem to want to stay alive on their own, and they work really hard to stay alive. So that's good.
I know. It's so weird because you hear these like horror stories about babies in dumpsters and whatever, and them surviving. And I'm like, Hannah can barely make a 10-minute drive to Target before she's like about to lose her
Well,
mind, and I am too.
I was gonna make a terrible joke, but it's not like they write what the dumpster baby's mood is. You know,
That's true. They don't get into
they
detail
don't get
about
into the
like,
detail. It's probably very upset.
and they don't like follow up with the dumpster baby very much. It's not like 10 years later.
Yeah,
How's the dumpster baby?
yeah.
That hmm, that would be an interesting
TLC show.
study. Yeah, like, are they okay?
I'm sure
What?
there's like some sort
Why?
of trauma there. Like there's probably so much disconnect. I mean, like they say that the one of the like leading killers of babies is, well, besides actually killing babies, is like the not having any sort of touch, right? I think they did it with like rats. So like if
Oh yeah.
if if, if there wasn't any like touch, if like you just take like a baby rat and put it somewhere, like it dies almost instantly.
Oh yeah.
Like as compared to like if it's with the mother, and so I feel like that's true. I feel like you should pay attention to your baby, and I feel like you should try your best to take care of it.
There was
I feel like
some
that's like
movie.
a Chris Rock thing. It's like you're not supposed to go to jail, like
Right, yeah,
it's
I
like
know. Yeah,
the
you're
old
not
Chris Rock
supposed.
joke.
Don't be
It's
proud of yourself for what you're
just
supposed to do.
please just take
Just
take care
keep
of your kid.
the living thing you made alive. Uh, don't turn into a crazy person. There's some movie or TV show where they messed up and too much time had passed and a whole bunch of infants died due to just lack of attention.
Or falling out of a window and the flash couldn't save them.
Right, microwave. Ding. Um, I'm trying to think other than that Changeling and 9/11 and Ahsoka. Oh, yeah, you said something about Ahsoka, and I was like, I don't know what he means. But then I started thinking, I was like, okay, you said they're like cloning the original trilogy, and I was like, okay, let me think because on the surface, I'm like, I don't know what the hell Agnew's talking about. So I was like, do you mean like shot for shot, like scenes, or like actual like the story? Because I was like, this
um,
story is not like the original trilogy to me, but
it's all of
tell
it.
me if it is
It's all of it. So,
everything.
um,
Because there were two shots where I was
well,
like,
there's parts that don't make sense because they're the parts that pulled me out of it is the parts that don't make sense, um, because they're trying to make it fit. They're trying to make it fit into the mold of the original trilogy so much and pay so much. Like I think what they did was they sat down and they said, everybody's sort of pissed at us. They're pissed at Marvel. They're pissed at us. Everybody's sort of pissed. Like we need to give them some like member sauce and not just like fan service member sauce because we tried that in
Boba
Mandalorian
Fett.
and Boba Fett and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to pay Boba Fett debts with the Mandalore episode and then pretend that wasn't part of our
And
season.
it sacrificed season 3 big time. Like
Yeah,
it ruined season
right.
3.
Um, basically, So from the parts that I've seen, like I started with I think episode 4, and then I went back and saw episode 3, and and then 5, and I don't know what one we're on now, but whatever.
Oh, like the original trilogy? Like
No, 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 no,
you did
no,
it out
no,
of
no, no.
order?
I mean Ahsoka.
I know you watched it like the Star Wars movies, like out of
I didn't
order.
watch it until you said you wanted to talk about it, and then I was like, all right,
Hmm.
I'll go watch.
No, you said I saw it, and then I said, then let's talk about it.
Yeah, because you were talking about it
Oh, okay.
originally, so I went and watched it because I was like, oh, is that
Is
something
that
to do?
on?
Is that on? No, but I mean, like when she's training Sabine, they had already had lessons, yet she was treating her like Luke, like Obi-Wan
Right,
treated Luke,
brand
like
new.
with the blaster down and stuff like that. I'm like, that was like that was like kid stuff, like in the beginning. And if she had already gotten training, like that was like Luke's like first 20 minutes with the Force.
Yeah, I
You know,
think
like that was like right on
that
his.
was day one.
That was
That was
like
day zero.
that was like in the van to
Right,
like the first place, right?
like on the ride.
Like yeah, that was like oh, it was like on the road trip,
Like here's something
and
we
that
can
was
do.
and it's not like Obi-Wan had that on him, like that was just like what he found in the area, you know, like he found like a helmet. Like I don't think he brought that helmet along with him, right? So it was probably like just sitting in Han's ship or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that was very similar.
But I'm just saying
Forgot about that
that
part.
was very similar. And then they had the Anakin part, which you know had a lot of the same dialogue as like the Vader fight, and sort
Oh, it
of
did.
went very similar. I thought she was actually going to lose a hand in it because I felt like it was very much like the Vader fight.
Oh,
You know, like where she says like I'm not going to fight you, and he's like I've heard that before, and I'm
yeah,
sure that's like a reference to Luke or whatever, right? But
yeah. I think
I don't know.
so.
I just
I
and then in this last one, Sabine was like in the they made the dungeon she was in identical to how like Leia's dungeon.
right.
And she was even like laying like Leia, and then like she got up just like Leia, and then she
Hmm.
walked over just like I don't know.
Hmm.
There's a lot, and even the fact that they're like you know a long time ago in a galaxy far, like they're being almost Deadpool, like they're almost being Deadpool, like with some of the
That's what I
references.
thought when he said a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I was like, hold back. Wait a minute. Wait. Slow down, Dave. I like what you're doing, but that is it. You are at the line.
Yeah,
You are meta. You are like meta adjacent.
right,
Like, don't do that because okay, it fits in because they technically are going to Gal. And all right, it's such a vague thing anyway.
right.
You know, it's not like Lucas is the only one who said that. But yeah, that was
But
very
you're
like
putting like
slam the brakes on the couch. Like, oh, stop.
yeah, yeah. I screamed when Sabine like put her hand up to like open up the thing. And I was like, if you, I'm glad they didn't.
That's what I like
Maybe
about
they did
her.
it. Maybe they did it to check, but I can't.
I like how she sucks. And then
How she says
I like how even the you know the droid is like she's like the least you know
like force
attuned to the
sensitive. Yeah.
force. Yeah, right. Which I know it's like that means she's gonna eventually.
Look, I don't want to like hate on all of it, but
Yeah,
it's just it's not doing it for me so far. Now the the arrival of Thrawn, he seemed. I mean, that seemed like
I love
moving
his
at the
voice.
right pace. It seemed like good dialogue. It seemed
There's a
very
whole bunch of like
precise.
I feel like he's conning everyone except for those stormtroopers and that guy in the gold face.
Yeah,
Like I think he's kind of using everybody who thinks they're on his team,
yeah.
and they're all gonna be cut loose.
It kind of makes me wish that we just had him for the last trilogy for like the 7, 8, and 9. Like it just would have been great to just watch somebody manipulate. You know, you'd watch like the rebels
It's
come up and be like, "I'm going to blow up this thing," and he's like, "Nope, I already stopped you. Goodbye." Psh, you know, like give us like give us Empire in the first
no,
installment. You know,
dude. Yeah, the whole Thrawn thing was it feels like a missed opportunity. But you know, again, I'm just happy that we have it, and I think Mickelson, his voice is so good. everything he says, like to me, he's like, I'm just like, how lucky to create a villain that's like engaging
Yeah.
in Star Wars after Darth Vader. It's like, how did they pull that off?
Yeah.
And it's like, now let me ask you this: I know nothing. This is not like I don't know any of the leaks. I don't read that stuff. Um, he's like, I'm gonna need your dark magic again.
Right.
He says that, and they keep talking about like the catacombs. I'm like, are they gonna bring Darth Maul back to life? And if they do, is that like for you? Are you like, oh my god, that's ridiculous? Or are you like, oh, that's awesome?
Well, I mean, they did it to his brother, right? So
So the so press,
I'm pretty sure they're going to.
dude. Ah, that would be crazy. It's like sometimes I don't care how we get there. I just want to see some characters in the same room
It would
and
be
just
great if they do like a
see
Dinobot
what they
thing or
do.
something though, like where
Is
even
it?
undead and possessed, he like turns on like the evil side, like he turns and like
Ooh,
joins Ahsoka or something like that. Would just be
ooh,
like
I
because she
know.
is kind of like they are going kind of like a Lord of the Rings type thing too, right? So when she came back, all of a sudden she's like Ahsoka the
Ahsoka.
White, and
Yeah.
and and he's about to raise an undead army, which was also in Return of the King, right? Like so,
Oh yeah,
like
that's right.
it it has a lot of similarities, and so I think she might just take her staff and just like bop them in the head and like make them good or something like that, or maybe take over the whole undead army and they'll fight against each other.
It would be neat.
By the way, parking the Star Destroyer, um, like carefully on the peg, that was that was great. You know what? That was so cool that I will remove all the sins for the Emperor building 1,000 Star Destroyers underneath the surface of the world that he was at.
Well, no, I mean we know how that happened somehow.
What was lunch break like on those ships? They're like, is he gonna let us go up yet? Like, why are we buried down here and actively keeping these things running? Like, this is costing a lot of gas, and fuel's a thing now. Did you hear about that ship that almost ran out of fuel?
I thought they
Like,
were basically bankrupt. Aren't they bankrupt? Their whole thing, the planet, the second one, gone
the
also.
Emperor's clone is just swiping, like opening up new credit cards every day, just swiping them. Like the thin-headed bank guys are coming
I
to
mean, and
collect.
he said once that thing turns on and we smash through the ice, we're gonna kick the shit out of them. We're just gonna kill them. Like it'll
Well,
take like 1 minute.
no, 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 no. He said that we have to go up and like wait and like hover. Like we're not even going to leave the atmosphere.
Pose for the lightning.
We're just gonna stay we're just gonna stay right here. And then he's so good at controlling the lightning, he'll just lightning all of them. No, he's like, mm.
So what are we needed for?
Yeah. And how did everybody get here?
How old is everyone?
What is the point of these maps?
When did everyone go to military training?
How come 30 years ago everybody decided to make a bunch of maps?
God.
Why is
JJ.
it always maps?
I was such a JJ guy for such a long time. And it's like that one, I'm like, man,
Maps.
you were great at everything before you open the box. And you were forced to open the box.
Yeah, he should have found like another half that could answer what's in the box.
It was Cracker Jacks.
Like he needs to like hand somebody half a script, and then the other person has to take it and say like, okay, I'm going to give the answer. Because he just
Weird.
doesn't know what's in it. He doesn't know. He didn't know it was on the island. He didn't know anything. Like he just
I know. People give him
constantly didn't
credit for
know.
Lost. I'm like, whoa. He didn't really do anything.
But,
um,
yeah.
yeah, he came up with like, I mean, gosh, who can't come up with those kind of things?
Ship
But
of
then
Theseus was pretty interesting, though. I will say that. If
yeah,
you're going to read a book
no, that
and
was
get
awesome.
really
It was the most
invested in it,
unique book I've ever read.
yeah,
Like, not because of the story, just because of the way it was told.
yeah, not even close. And I still don't think I fully understand it. Like, if there's a book that you actually need a book club for, that's the book you need a book club for. Like
Right.
the
You
people
need
that are
one.
reading like the murder mysteries, or like all these like, oh, the guy was nice until he murdered everybody on the train books, like that. Everybody's like Gone Girl and all that nonsense. Like, read those to your heart's content. You knew exactly what happened. There's nothing to discuss. Like, whatever
Yeah.
happened is what happened. But in that book, it's like so layered.
It's
You need instructions on how to read
insane.
it. Like, you don't even know how to read it.
I
And
mean,
so,
it's a book, and the book itself is crazy.
well, why don't we just explain it a bit? So the book is,
That's what I was going to
first
do.
all, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I was just going to say the book, and you'll understand why I'm saying the book in a second. The book, the actual story that's printed on the pages, is crazy. But the real story is what's written in the margins of the book. Now you can take
Yeah.
it. Take
No,
it
no,
away.
no.
It's
You're
like
absolutely
it's
right. But just the fact that the book looks like a library book, like they
right,
put,
like it has a
like that's probably why it's not in libraries, because one, all the stuff would fall out of the pages, which is one of the annoying things of the book.
they
So
yeah.
there's lots of things in between the pages, and as you read it, chances are you want to like scribble on them and write what page they were on. Anyway, but as you go through it, they've injected like notes and
The writing in the
postcards
margins
and the
is a
writing in the margins.
conversation
Yeah.
between two people, and they leave each other things as the book goes, and they're discussing the author of the book they're reading, which is not a real person either.
Right.
Like that's something that I kept like bouncing with, going
And
like, oh
it
yeah, wait, no, he's not even real, but he's like, there's all these conspiracy theories about him and his books.
it really messed with me when I started marking what the inserts were, because then I felt like I was actually, I like looked at my handwriting in the book, and the handwriting of the people looks like it came from like a ballpoint pen. It's all different colors.
Reality was tethering away.
Yeah. Oh,
Here it
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is that in WandaVision, the two visions discuss what the ship of Theseus is. So I guess it's like some old whatever
Yeah,
parable.
it's in
Who
Greek. Actually,
knows?
Ruby asked me the other night because she's fallen heavily into Greek mythology,
Oh, good
and
for
so and
her.
she was like, she turned this page and it was like Ship of Theseus. I was like, what? Ruby, I have a book you have to read.
And
I was like, perfect.
it's like if you replace the wood of a ship, every piece of wood with new wood, is it a new ship or is it still the ship of Theseus?
Yeah.
And they were like, it's both.
Ooh.
Right. And that's like this book. It's like it's a book, but it's also like people reading, not even reading a book, but like they're reading the book, but discussing this crazy author who wrote it, who like kind of twists some hints in it. Dude, it's so insane. I don't know how anyone gets the ball rolling on writing a book like
And I
this.
think there was like six more layers to go through. There was like,
Yeah,
I
because
think
there's
once you
different
finish
ink.
it, then there's like, then you actually have to go back and decode a whole bunch of it. Like I think there was a whole other part that we never got to, where it was like you actually decode a lot of the messages, that everything that they wrote to one another actually had a cipher, and that you could go back through and understand what they were actually trying to
Oh,
say, which is
right.
like crazy.
That's
It's like,
right. Like a decoder.
that
I
one
loved
fall.
how
I don't know where that is. It's somewhere. It fell out.
some sometimes the conversations between the two people writing in the margins, it would veer off into like their personal life, and then I
Yeah.
think like they were going to meet each other in real life. Like it was like if you can see
Yeah.
the
It was so
writing on
cool.
the side, the writing on the side is that's not my pen. That's
Right.
part of
It's not
the
uniform.
book.
It's like
Yeah.
little scribbles, independent handwriting, and then they were supposed to be like checking the book out. That's how they were communicating. So they check the book out and write in it and then put the book back in the library. Anyway, it was good. It was
Look,
fun.
like
Highly.
like if you look like a book for loan, like
Yeah.
it has like
Yeah.
a
Things are
Dewey
like
Decimal.
uneven. It's like worn.
Look,
All the
look at
pages look like,
all the times they got it out at the
yeah.
library.
Yeah. which you can also look at and like then a bit more about when they were taking things out. It's
Uh,
like crazy.
so between 1957 and October 2020.
Ooh.
That's how long. I never looked at that before.
It's weird that they didn't bring up anything going on.
Ship of face, yes.
Anyway, that was a good story. Yeah.
The story, like the words, the book, it's like this guy gets stuck on this crazy pirate ship, kind of,
Right.
where
It's like an undead or something. Yeah.
everyone's mouth is sewn shut.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the
I can't believe you remember so much of this. It was so long ago.
my bookmark is on. That's where I left. That's when I stopped. When he got his thing sewn shut and he like joined the crew. I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
what? It's great. It's a grand tale.
It was good. It's definitely the closest thing to never-ending story that you'll find. Right. By the way, we rewatched that not too long ago, and I finally understand it.
Hated it. Hated it so much. Thought it was like the most overrated thing. I hated when the horse died in the mud. I was like, why did you have to make that a part of the movie? And I don't remember anything other than a kid in a library during a thunderstorm reading a book. But then
Yeah.
when he would, when you'd go into his imagination, I don't like remember anything.
It's not as
Blind
long
dog.
as you would think it is because it takes a while to set up, and the actual story is pretty like there's not much to it.
The
But
quickly ending story.
but the overall thing was that like it was extremely meta, right? Because it was what they say is like they're like you're reading this story and he's like how are you talking to me and they're like we know you're reading the story like you have to give us an ending to the
Oh
story. You have to
yeah.
because there's people watching you right now and the people watching you right now want to know what's going to happen.
And doesn't he
And
look at the camera?
no, no, I don't think he looks at
Oh, okay.
no, they didn't do that yet,
I
but
thought he was like, sorry,
yeah.
Elliot.
But
Um,
that's why
so
it's the never ending story because everybody is watching the story that's watching the story that so if you're watching it it's never ending because he's reading a story that's watching a story that's becoming a story
it's a
that you'll tell your friends about that we're talking about now and so it's never ending.
it's a what is it? A snake that eats its own tail.
Yeah, exactly. What was it called, the Orion or something?
Yeah, I know. I was like trying to think of
Orin.
the real word, but I can't. I can't. I'm excited for Loki. Short rounds in it.
Is he? Maybe I
Yeah,
don't know.
he's like the engineer. He like fixes all this tech.
I just
He's like
can't. I
he's
just
like the
can't, John.
guy.
It's
I just can't.
I'm just so it just I like with the writer strike and stuff, I was actually kind of like, you know what? There is such a backlog of things to watch.
Yeah.
Like there's such like like even like we haven't even gone backwards, right? Like we
No.
haven't gone back and watched like stuff from the 40s, from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Like we didn't watch all of it.
Oh right.
There's
I
like
know.
so
Yeah.
many shows. Like did we watch all of Cheers? Did we watch all of MASH? Like did we watch Andy Griffith? Like did we watch all of the Brady Bunch? Did we watch like there's like so many other shows to like kind of go back and experience. I was like, good, stop. I don't need more piling up in the front. And it doesn't seem like you're thinking about it. So until you start thinking about it, just stop.
I know what you mean. I
Make some
was thinking
quality.
that too. I was like, hopefully this will give everybody like reason to not rush, because I think one of the biggest like lessons that both sides should have learned from all this is that when you rush art, you're gonna sacrifice quality.
Yeah.
So it's like you just can't rush art. You can't. You're not doing it. Don't tell them how fast to do it. you know.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's just I don't know. There's just been too much that came out too fast,
It's
and
like
it's just like
Michelangelo.
when they start releasing them, when they start releasing them out, when they know they're gonna fail. Like that's the part where it like kills me, where they're like, all right, well, we made this and we know it's terrible, but let's just like see if we can make $5 back. It's like,
Dude, that's how I felt about. That's definitely how I felt about Star Wars: The Force Awakens, or I mean the very last one.
yeah,
I was like, you did what the hell?
like you tricked me.
Like, there's no way
Yeah.
that everybody was like, this is gonna be the greatest finale. No one, it's gonna surprise. Like nothing.
One of
It
the
was what I would have done, and that's not good.
one of the best videos I saw was right before then was I think it's called Sideways is the channel. The guy hasn't put up a video in a while, but he used to. I think I talked about this before, but he analyzed all like songs and stuff.
Sideways.
He kind of breaks down songs, and his videos are like an hour and a half, and he just he went after
Cool.
like Les Mis, and then he went around like the live action Disneys and what's wrong with them and stuff like that. Um, he talked about like Hugh Jackman and stuff singing, and like how they dehydrated him so that he would be muscular and thin in the movie, and then
They dehydrate.
they recorded. Well, they instructed him to be thin, and like then they don't drink water, like for
Emaciated.
all like the Superman scenes and stuff, like they don't drink water for 3 days or
Right.
2 days or something like that, and then all of their skin is stuck to their muscles, so they look jacked, but they're also like delirious at that point.
Right.
So you're asking actors to like act like that. Um, anyway, but like in that scene, he was telling him that it's really dangerous to try to sing while you're dehydrated. Like it's like you'll lose, like you will not just like lose your voice, like you'll lose the ability to speak.
Yeah, because you're
Right.
like pulling so much oxygen in at once, and if you don't have
It's
any,
like running an engine without oil,
yeah,
basically.
right, yeah, it's just gonna.
Yeah, like you're just putting water in there or something, and it's like, yeah. So he does good analysis like that, but he had put out a video that said that the Rise of Skywalker trailer is lying to us, and he
I
broke
remember it
down the
sucking.
trailer because he said it was like playing um, Han and Leia's love motif,
That's so weird that it
and he's
played
like,
that.
why is it playing that song? That song doesn't have anything to do with with anything we're seeing on screen. Like,
Yeah, their love stories are over.
so he kept going into like that. You hear these songs and you have that feeling, like you have that love feeling from
Oh,
them,
yeah,
and you don't know why you like it. You're like, why do I feel so good about this? Like, why does this?
dude, and they play it. I remember in the trailer, they play it under Luke's voice.
Yeah,
Luke's like, "That's the role of a Jedi." Na, 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 na. That Leia
yeah,
Han. Yeah, it's like they're mashing, they're piling member berries to
yeah.
like hook you in. And dude, I remember watching the trailer and being like, "There's no way this is gonna be good." Like, it's just,
I mean, I liked it, but I still couldn't deny it. Like, there was still part of me that was like,
yeah.
maybe it's just gonna all get cleaned up.
I know.
Like maybe,
I thought maybe it would like end on like to be continued, and
yeah.
everybody would be like, "Oh my god,
There's a fourth one. Yeah,
10."
because there was just that trailer of her versus the Tie Fighter,
That was neat.
and it was like,
I was like, okay, neat scene.
yeah, it was like a neat acrobatic scene, but it still wasn't like what exactly
Ding,
we
ding,
wanted.
ding, ding,
Like,
ding, 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 ding. They show her running through the jungle that sort of looked like Endor, but you knew it
oh yeah,
wasn't.
that train
And
sequence.
they played that doom doom doom, and there's another one where it's kind of like, oh, what's going on? It's like somehow Palpatine returned. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! They dumped that on Isaac, and they were like, just say it.
I would refuse. I would
I
walk off.
know.
I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing.
Are you sure? Somehow?
They're like, well, we don't have enough time to build a new
Right.
bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
You could have gone. I mean, like, if you're already demolishing people, why not just bring Plagueis in? Why not just bring Plagueis and make it be like he was in the background. He was waiting to take over later.
I mean, it would have been
And he
really.
was
I mean, it's also like we'll bring the Emperor, and it's like okay, or Grand Admiral Thrawn is still alive. Why don't you bring him in? Like, how did they
also, we
not
know how to
think
kill
of
the
that?
Emperor. Like, the other thing is, like, we already know how to kill the Emperor. We killed him once. Like,
They already
as a
did.
group, we watched it. We watched him die. You said that he died. You're saying that he died now because it's just a clone, an ugly one, like a deteriorate, like it looks like almost like a weaker clone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it just didn't feel like there was any sort of danger. And then it was like a stadium event. Like the whole thing was just confusing. Like it's a stadium event, and it's like all the Sith are here, and I'm like, the Sith don't like each other. Like they don't.
I thought there was only two.
Well, there's a rule of two
Just
because they would
rule of
always
two.
kill
You
each other, right?
bang us over the head with.
So it's like that doesn't seem like they'd align with each other. And I didn't know they could have ghosts. Like that seems like that was sort of a thing reserved for the good guys, right? Like it's like, oh, but when you die, or you can be like a force ghost.
Oh, I mean, only a few of the good guys.
Watching those,
You know, like Qui-Gon and whoever before him are the only ones who knew how to do it.
yeah. So it shouldn't have been like everybody, and it was really like only if it gets passed on. I guess like Yoda did Yoda taught Obi-Wan like after he was dead. So I guess you can pass it on as a ghost.
He taught him when he was alive. In between
Oh right, yeah,
Phantom
that was
Menace
right. Yeah. That was at the end of
to
Phantom
commune
Menace.
with him. I will teach you to be, or yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but he just died. Can I mourn? God damn it! Oh, maybe it was at the end of the
But I feel
second
like it was
one.
I feel like it was the person had to understand how to do it. Like I feel like
Yeah,
the ghost had to understand
yeah,
how to do it.
right,
That's the way it felt to me. But then at that point he's saying that you need to learn to understand to commune with them. But Luke didn't. Luke was
but
just laying on the hearth.
right.
Like
Maybe it was learning how to do it once you die.
maybe he was so close to death.
Maybe that's what Yoda was like. You know, in case shit goes south, I'll teach you how to. I'll teach you how to.
I wish that was the line.
Shit goes south. I'll teach you how to find the loophole in all of
If
this.
south it goes.
Yes.
If south shit
We
goes.
will find.
Teacher will. Oh, that's that they did that too. They did that too.
What?
They so rewatch the last scene of Ahsoka. For some reason, there's a Wes Anderson movie in the middle of the episode. I don't know where that came from. Like all of a sudden, it becomes wide shots and everything's joking, and she has a relationship with the dog. Like I don't
Oh yeah, I know that was a little rushed, but you know whatever.
know where that came from. Like I don't know why you
She
guys have a rapport. You just
Filoni loved
left.
animals. These big animals.
It's fine. You can make him a dog. Like you can build up to it though.
Yeah,
It
I
just
know.
seemed
It was rushed, but I liked it.
like she's like, ah,
'Cause
you
he was
ran away
scary.
from me, and I'm like, easy.
I was like, he could eat you,
He's a rent-a-pet.
right?
Like
But he bonded with her. Or whatever.
this would be like getting a rental car and then like screaming at it like once you get somewhere. You're like, oh, your key fob's annoying. It's like I don't know. You could have gotten a compact.
Your key fob's annoying.
But but if you go to the scene where she meets the turtles, it's very much like when Luke met Yoda on Dagobah.
Yeah.
If you substitute the wolf for R2.
Right. I know.
Because he's even like arguing and he's like,
He was
whoa,
mad.
whoa, whoa. Like, yeah, stay back. You know, he's like, I mean, you know harm. You know, and that's like what that scene is like identical to it. If
Yeah.
you actually like just are thinking of it when you're watching it. And I'm like,
Totally. That's all I thought of.
that's when I messaged you. When I
Yeah.
saw that. When I
Oh,
saw
okay.
that scene, I was like, all right, this is too much. I can't. This is too many scenes in a row of identical
Do you
things. And
think the two like mercenaries, when the guy's like, this is the stuff of childhood story, like this is folklore, this is madness, it's like pretend, like this shouldn't be real, and there's something, can you feel it, can you hear it, something's calling, something's stirring.
listen, do you smell something?
I'm like, is Thrawn like fucking with him, like making him think that he's like feeling something that's not there,
But Thrawn
and they're
doesn't
just
have
gonna
powers,
bounce?
right?
Right, but those witches do.
Uh,
Like, could they be like leading him to nothing? Because I'm like, what else is there? Isn't this the thing? Thrawn's gonna go back now, and they're the Mandalorian and Luke and everybody, and they're gonna battle.
I mean, I think that guy, the mercenaries are
Shinati.
like he's saying. It's like you can't trust them because it's like on some level they're Jedi. It might be like he's kind of the same as Ahsoka. It's not that much of a difference, right? Ahsoka left the Jedi as well,
Right.
right? So all of a sudden she's sort of back, whatever that means. But it's like I don't really understand why they're so much at odds because they're kind of the same, and we've been kind of fed this with Dooku and everyone else that's like left the Jedi Order. So I don't really, I think in the end, anybody that was or like was a Jedi and has left the Jedi is the most right in all of these shows. So anybody
Mm,
that was a Jedi and left the Jedi is the most right,
okay.
right? That's how they sacrificed
Uh,
Luke because Luke
right.
was completely for the Jedi, and then that was wrong. That was wrong to be completely a Jedi. Like everything in the Filoni show, like in the Clone Wars and everything is the theme has always been, and ever since the prequels, it's been that the Jedi
Right.
are wrong,
The ego.
right? The yeah. Well, it wasn't. It was a bit more than just our ego. That was so the guy that does the deep fakes. I can't not watch all of those. The Obi-Wan deep fakes while they're all just like sitting around the TV,
Oh my
like
god.
drinking coffee, and Qui-Gon's just snacking away. I
I feel
can't.
like Ewan McGregor would just do those.
They're so funny. I mean, like they're so perfect, and like Qui-Gon watching everybody get impaled, and he's like, "Well, she's dead."
Oh,
Like,
right. Yeah, right. I hate that.
it's so funny. He's like, "No, that probably would have hit her internal organs and everything." He's like, "Ah, they came out with it the day after you died."
Right. Right.
They came out with the bantha tank like the day after you died. And I was like, it was so funny. But those, I don't know what they're doing with it. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have some sort of mystical journey where somebody's going to represent each parts of the triad. Like, I think Vader's going to be the father, and being as is, it means father.
Right.
And then I think Ahsoka's going to be like the daughter, and then maybe
Luke.
that guy's going to be the son. Maybe Luke. I don't know. But it
Very
wouldn't make sense
interesting.
if Luke makes a representation for the dark side. It doesn't make tons of sense to me, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. I think they're setting up a story for these two characters that everybody is kind of like, what the heck is going on with them?
yeah,
Just to show Thrawn's like manipulation and power and just how he's already like so many steps ahead, that he's like tricking, like whatever this guy thinks that he's sensing is just nothing.
it would have
Uh,
been great if it was their show. Like they
I
seem to
know.
be the most interesting. Like they
I know.
actually
The most
spent time
unique.
thinking about them, and isn't like a previous character that is now being, milked.
Repackaged, right? That's what I think. Like I like about them because I'm like, what are they up to? I can't call this one. Everything else, I'm kind of like, I know how it's going to end. I feel like this one won't end like happy.
Yeah.
It won't be a win,
Well,
which
we'll
is
see.
cool. We will see. We will see.
Oh, and we did start rewatching Planet of the Apes at Kelly's request. Did you ever watch Planet of the Apes?
Oh, I was like, is it a show or I mean, I know the show or the movie or is it what?
I think it was
What
a
is?
TV show, but
It?
this was
It's
the
like
movie,
Star
like the
Trek for
original
me.
movie, from like the 70s. Charlton Heston.
I'm sure I've seen it. I know I've watched it, but I was like 8.
Something about like 70s
Damn
movies.
dirty ape.
Exactly. Yeah.
Crappy costumes and everything, but like you forget how crappy they are pretty quickly. Like I remember being fine.
It like for me, it's like the dialogue sticks with you because they say things that you wouldn't expect them to say, and
Example.
it's not like the best dialogue, but you're like, what? Like they say
Like
like
what?
like when Charlton
Like what?
Heston lands on the planet in the beginning and they start like walking around, he's just mocking the shit out of all the other guys that he's with. He's just like, hey, you just wanted to do this because you wanted fame and fortune. And what are you doing now? You're on a desert planet. Like, how's that working out for you? Oldest man in the world, and no one can see you. And he like,
So he's just
man,
like
he's
an
being
ass.
rough. Like, he's just being like,
So he's just a dick. So you're supposed to hate him in the beginning.
it's almost like they just let Charlton Heston just talk. Like it's almost like it's in his contract. Like, all right, he's allowed to say whatever he wants to on screen, and that is now the dialogue. And it's just like, can you just kind of keep it somewhere along this frame line? And he just keeps going.
Can you
Like,
get this point
it's like the
across?
worst hike ever. Like, he's just tearing these guys apart.
It
Um,
reminds me of Doctor Strange. Like in the first like 10 minutes, he's like a dick, and you're like, is he the main character?
yeah, you're
And then
like,
and then and then he's, yeah, you're
I
like,
hope
oh,
he's good. Yeah.
okay. He goes
I
through
guess
some
he's.
shit.
I mean, I guess he's good at what he does.
Right.
Um,
Kind of mean. Kind of mean to
it was probably
Rachel.
a hard needle to thread with Doctor Strange because you didn't want it because House kind of already did it, so you kind of don't want to be House, and that makes it difficult because it's basically House.
I was just gonna say that's kind of like,
He probably could have done a pretty good Doctor Strange as well. Like if they had just put him in the role,
yeah, like
he probably
two
would have been
British
good.
guys who do like just a good American accent. I don't know what it is, but
N-
when they use
Now
their American accent.
I rewatched um, Civil War. I needed like some good old Marvel. Like
Right. I know.
I can't take some of the stuff that's coming out. So I went back and I watched Infinity
Dude,
War
it's so bad.
and Endgame and
So bad compared to that stuff.
but I watched Civil War and the only thing that pulled me out of it was the one guy from The Office, like the from who played like Bilbo Baggins. Um, he's like one of the guys that works for Shield or whatever. Who you know he's got like for some reason a Boston accent, and it just I can't. Like he's so obviously British, and it's like to do a Boston accent. Just he kind of goes into like a New York accent and then into a Boston accent like half the time, and I just don't understand. Like there's has to be like a ton of Boston. Like get Bill Burr, get like anybody, like just get somebody, get Matt Damon. Like I don't know,
Chris
like
Evans is right there.
it's like it just
Like if Chris Evans like is talking normally, he has like a brutal
yeah.
Boston accent.
Right.
It's like hard to listen to him sometimes. I'm like,
It
stop it, stop
yeah, it reminds me of
it. You're from Brooklyn. You don't sound that way.
the Forrest Gump. Like there's Dallas from
Detroit.
Detroit, where everybody's from some other place.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like that's what it.
Tex. He's from Arkansas. I can't remember, but that's a great part.
Yeah,
He's
that
from.
that just keeps popping in my head every time I saw him in Civil War. But anyway, the with
Wait, who?
the guy that played I don't know his name. The guy that played Bilbo in the
Agent
Hobbit.
Ross.
Yeah.
Agent Ross. Yeah, it's so funny. I never noticed. It's so funny, dude. I didn't know he was British. I think I knew, but I forgot. Like, I don't
It might
remember
be me.
when
It
I
might be
watched
that I've
him.
just seen him in too many things. Like he was the guy in The Office. He was like the one of the main characters in The Office, and
Oh, the original one.
yeah, the only one I've seen.
That's why, right?
Yeah,
I
and
I must. I think I'm like really. I thought I used to be good at hearing accents and knowing where they were from, but like I swear I was listening to Chris Hemsworth the other day, and I'm like, I thought he was Australian, and then he like said something, and I'm like, oh, he is. But like for a while, I was like, I guess he's British, and I just didn't know because I just like I don't know. They all like
Well,
blend
it's sort of
around
the
in my
same. I
head.
mean, Australian and British colony. I don't know. I mean, I feel like sometimes it's just kind of mixed up and crazy. But the anyway, so I forget what I was saying, but we were watching the Planet of the Apes, and
But yeah, that's
so
good.
we finished the first movie, and it's great. Like,
He
really
was
enjoy
being
the
a dick
first
to
one.
everybody.
He was being a dick, and I mean, I don't want to ruin the movie for anybody, but eventually, it's like good. I like what they did with the costumes. Everybody has everybody's
Okay.
eyes do a lot of acting in the movie, which is really cool.
Mm,
Um, and it's interesting. It has an interesting flow,
the eyes have.
interesting ending, like interesting dangers and stuff like that.
It's
It's
not the
good.
same ending as the Mark Wahlberg Tim Burton
No,
project, is it?
no. Well,
Vehicle.
this was the original. This was the original one, and then
No, but I mean the ending. Like the ending isn't the same, right? Like
it's
he doesn't get back
nothing.
to Earth,
No,
and
no.
President Lincoln is an ape,
Yeah, which makes no sense.
which is so,
Which makes
which
very
is such a coincidence that like, uh, you ruined it. It's like, wait a minute.
in the
They
same
just
exact
happen
spot.
to
Yeah,
have, and they just happen to build. And they just happen. He just happened to free.
and it happens to be the same year, and all the genetics worked out, and also the leader, and also everyone decided to do the same thing, and
Yes,
also
it all just happened that way, but we were just monkeys,
yeah,
apes,
yeah, and all cars and everything are designed exactly the same way.
marble,
Um,
top hat.
right, nothing's designed for an ape body. Um, anyway, so they had the first one, and so Kelly was like, "Well, how many are there?" And I'm like, "Well, there's five."
Okay.
So it goes like Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet
Ooh,
of the Apes,
ooh,
Conquer the Conquer. Yeah, I think
conquer.
Conquer the Battle of the Apes or something like that, and then it's like Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I think is the last one. Um, so it goes full. It goes like it's good. Those are like the five original ones. I think there's a new. I think there's a new one for like the new one that's coming out. The one that
I
started with like
know. I
John
can't
Lithgow
believe.
and stuff. So that
Yeah, and Franco. I can't believe they're making another one. I thought that was it.
Yeah, well, like that was kind of the thing with this. I was like, when I looked at all of them, they all came out like every year. There was another one. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how did they come out like every year? Because the first one was like a big production,
Right.
and so we're watching the second one, and I'm like, oh, that's how this thing is terrible. Like
Nailed it.
the second movie is such a bait and switch. Like
Oh,
because because you would think it's like Charlton Heston, right? Like they're like Charlton Heston's in this one too, and there's going to be apes. Like, don't you worry, here it comes, And you start the
because of
movie off, and
Jurassic
it's like,
Park 2.
hey, I'm Charlton Heston, and I'm picking up right where it left. They even like play the end of the movie.
Oh,
They
I like
play
that.
the end of
I like
the.
when they do that.
It picks right up, right from it,
Previously on Planet of the Apes.
and then he's in it for like another minute, and then he's gone.
And then they Drew
He's gone
Barrymore
all
scream.
the way into the very end of the movie. Like he's
Ah,
gone. And they have this other guy who
that's
shows
great.
up as well who looks identical to him.
Carl
And
Heston.
he's like, yeah. But Charlton Heston's character was Taylor, so this guy's name is Baylor,
Right.
and
Sailor.
I think it was like Brent or something. I forget what it was.
Oh
Anyway,
God.
but he he just he just fills the role. Like there's no way to think that he's not filling the role. Like it just seems like Charlton Heston was like, I'll do it, but I'll do it for 2 minutes.
One day. I'll
Yeah,
shoot for
like
one
yeah, I'll
day.
shoot for one day, and I get to do this or something like that. And he probably had like 100 things in his contract, and so this guy like acts the whole movie, and then at the very end they're together, but they look identical. Like they have the same beard, they have the same build, they're acting the same way, they're dressed the same way.
He's a leading white.
It's like an obvious clone. It's so funny. Everybody's more red in these movies anyway. I don't know what the photography was, but like everybody has like psoriasis.
Well, aren't they like in the
it's like
sun?
sunburn, and yeah, like everybody's like super 70s tan before
It's like their
cancer
sun.
set in.
They're out in the sun and they're using like lighting. Like they're just cooking them out there.
Everybody's just it looks like everybody stinks.
Lobster.
So
Ew.
Anyway, they like it's just such a terrible movie. And Kelly was like, that was not fun. I'm like, yeah, it gets better with like I think I remember the third one being better, but the second one is just like it's like Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Just Freddy's not even in it. He's not even in it.
Compare it to another. Oh, geez.
He's like gone for until like the last 10 minutes of the movie. Then Freddy's in it. I'm like, well, why would you watch this? But it's
what?
like that cash grab. It's like that cash grab. Like,
Can
all
you
right, we need
compare?
another one out.
Can you compare it to another sequel where it's just like such a mess, and you're
Oh
like,
man, I'll try.
why did they even do it? I'm trying to think. Like I remember Jurassic Park 2. It was like Goldblum was the star, and it was just the same exact movie, just bigger. Like
They got to the
Act One,
mainland, right?
2.
Like that was like the Lost World.
Yeah.
There was a book, so I think it was based on the book, so it had a little bit
Hmm.
more leverage. But
Yeah. But it was like, I mean, if you go back and watch, all the same things happen to them. It's just bigger. It's like instead of the little um like Jeep hanging off the cliff,
yeah,
it's like this bus that's attached. It's like this, RV kind of
yeah.
thing that's like huge. So like it's giant and it's hanging off. And it's not one T-Rex, it's two.
And it
Everything's
was it
just
was it
more.
was a bit of King Kong in there too. I think with this one because it was like they had the T Rex in like a container, and they're like, all right, let's just park this at like a populated city, and this should be fine. Oh no, the thing wore off. Oh, it's waking up. Well, luckily it's inside of it. Oh my gosh, it broke out of the container, and oh, now it's running through the city. I don't even remember how it ends.
This
Like it's
comedic.
like, how do you stop a T Rex in the? I think they lured it back with like its baby or something. I
Yeah,
think maybe
that's
that's
what
what
they
it was.
had. They had
Which
its
is what they
baby.
always do. It's like there's always like a baby. That's like the only way you can stop a monster.
Right.
It has to be a mother. Oh, it's
Has
a
to be.
mother. That's what they did with Godzilla. Remember like
I'm not a monster.
the
I'm a
cat
mother.
the Puff Daddy Godzilla movie? Like Matthew Broderick figures out that it's like a mother. Like, oh, it's just
I didn't
pregnant.
even see it. I
That's
was
the
like,
problem.
I remember when it first came out being excited, and then like the first couple of reviews were like, Godzilla shows up at 1 hour 25 minutes. I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we making these monster movies about the people?
Yeah.
Sick of it.
Yeah, they would just show like his eye, or they
It's
would just show like his like the back of
rumbling.
his like
His
his little
tail.
tail.
Yeah, you have to wait 1 hour and 20 before.
I remember arguing with my dad about I was like, Dad, listen to this Puff Daddy song. It's awesome. My dad's like, it's Casimir. I'm like, or Cashmere. I'm like, no, it's Puff Daddy. And
Cash.
he's like, this is Led Zeppelin. And I'm like, no, it's Puff Daddy. He's like, no, Mike, it's Led Zeppelin. And I just remember like not my teenage brain
Like
couldn't
how long
comprehend.
did
I'm
that
like,
go?
it like forever. It went for like it just I think it still goes on to this day. I
Ringing.
but it's so funny because it's like now when the kids listen to like some new song by Taylor Swift or whoever's popular or something like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know this song. Like it goes like this, and they're like, no, this is the song. That old song isn't the song anymore. This is the song. That old song got it from this, and it's like that's time paradox. That doesn't. It's not. It's not how things work. But I guess
Do you
you
understand
know
it
better
yet?
than me.
I've told you that we're a spinning ball in the middle of nothing that's expanding.
I showed Leo Superman.
The
I
first
don't
one?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I got him to show it. I also didn't remember all the scenes in it.
It takes
But
a while to get him in that suit.
he was fine with it, and I told him I'm like, look, I like Superman. I actually like the whole beginning more than before he becomes Superman and stuff like that. Um,
I know you're so
the
good.
but he had the perfect reaction for the title credits in the beginning, which go on
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know.
forever.
It's
Like
it's obnoxious.
it's like 15
All
too
right,
many.
all
You're
right.
like okay, and then it's like, and you're like, it's not cool anymore.
It's like
Like you got to speed this up.
assistant
Like
stagehand. It's like Mike Tossi.
Best grip boy.
Keith Gardner soundtrack.
And then it shows like the director's name, like Richard Donner is Richard Donner in Richard Donner.
Wait, was it Richard Donner? I thought it was somebody else.
It
I
was
thought
Richard.
his got canned.
Well, he shot 1 and 2 at the same time, and so he released 1,
Oh, and then they chopped up 2
and then they chopped up 2,
and did
then,
the S throw.
and then later on he got to do the Donner cut where he recut it all because he was going to have the world spinning backwards scene at the end of 2, not at the end of 1. So it was going to be a whole thing, and there wasn't going to be like a forgetful kiss power that Superman has.
Or a powers chamber reverser.
I think he still had that.
No.
Yeah,
that's right. He
still
did.
Because
Because his dad's like, if you choose to be human.
But it wasn't. The fight didn't go down the same way. The fight was.
He didn't become Batman.
Yeah, and when he's powered down, there's not also in the Richard Donner cut. There's what's his name? The Godfather.
Oh, Brando.
Yeah, Marlon Brando.
You can.
He
Cal
he could use his footage again, so he used his footage in it. Like,
Oh, right.
Brando wouldn't let his footage. That's why, like, his mom is in it for the second one. In the other cut, I forget.
Only Richard.
So
Only Richard.
So there's all this like unknown Brando footage that he still had and he could use, and so it's kind of neat to watch the Donner cut because it's like, which was before the Snyder cut, by the way, right? Like this.
Of course, I know.
This
That's
was
why
like,
it's so crazy that Superman's in both of them.
people really want it done right.
And the Ayer cut.
But I like it. But
There's
also,
an Ayer cut out there.
For some reason, Donner also said, like, I don't want to use any technology or any tricks that we wouldn't be able to use in the 70s, which I think I can understand the ethics of that. But also, I'm like, you could have made some of these scenes look a little bit better, like just a little bit.
Yeah,
like, don't lose the concept, but maybe blend it.
Yeah, you could touch
like
it up.
Like we could today.
Touch up paint. You know, like they do, like they did in Oppenheimer. He was like, it was like movie perfected, you know, film screen perfected with CGI.
Yeah, right. But still easy on the eyes, you know?
Right.
Anyway, yeah, so Leo watched the whole thing.
Wow. Good for him.
He was really pumped. He got very like worried at the end. He jumped when like Superman was like angry. Like when like Lois dies and he's like, and he like flies up. Leo didn't know how to handle that. He didn't know like what was happening. Yeah, it was very intense.
Here's what happens when Superman gets mad.
Yeah,
turns the world around,
and it spins off its axis and flies into the sun. Yeah,
and everything that happened just goes in reverse, like you're rewinding a tape. Like dirt and gravity and all the rules just go away.
Yeah, I was like, I probably need to wake him up tomorrow morning and tell him that that's not the way this works. That's not how time travel works.
I mean, it's just, you know, pretend. I just say, oh, well, that's just pretend. That's worked pretty well. Heather's like, when I grow up, I want to be Elsa. I'm like, Bud, you know, that's pretend. I was like, do you just want to like have the dress and like the hair and stuff? And she's like, well, yeah. I'm like, and you know, what about the powers? She's like, I know that's pretend. I'm like, okay, yeah, me too.
You're like, it's totally pretend. And then you're just sitting alone at your desk and you're like trying to move a pen with the force. You're like, well, that's not, I just haven't tried hard enough. It's like, I don't have a good enough teacher and I waited too long.
Oh, I won't learn until I'm, you know, like a grandfather, probably.
I'm too old to get into the academy.
Yeah, they wouldn't take me.
It's got to be at least 20 times in our lives where we sat there and we're like, is it going to happen this time? Like you just try to pull like the pen over to you or something.
I remember an ex of mine would entertain me when I would reach for like a bottle of beer on the like coffee table.
Yeah.
And she would pick it up like this and like float it to my hand. And I was like, wow, you're pretty neat today.
Today.
And that one thing you
Too
do.
bad all those other things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they don't
The
outweigh.
I
Anybody
do
can do
that.
that really if I just tell them to.
I
Tell
do
them
that for
how.
the kids a little bit. Like when they like ask for the milk in the morning for their cereal, I'll like take it out of the fridge and then be like, "Dun, dun, 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 dun," and they're like, "Dad, hurry up!" And I'm like, "Dun, dun, 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 dun." And I just like start pouring it. But they're like, I'll move it so slow. It'll be
Nothing.
like the X-wing just coming out of the swamp, just slowly moving.
Nothing's better than like not like annoying your kids, but like kind of annoying them. But you're just making yourself laugh ultimately, and
Yeah,
like
and they're laughing
whoever in
too.
the
Like,
yeah, they're like sometimes when they try to hold it in, it's the greatest. That's my favorite thing when they're trying not to laugh at me,
yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, I know how to do this.
that is the best. I think I think the payoff doesn't come until they meet other parents, you know, and then like the other parents like get the milk and like pour it, and they're like, oh,
Yeah,
that wasn't really
that's
special.
interesting.
I thought it would just float over, and you didn't do it. Do you have any songs you want to sing with milk pouring?
That's interesting because I mean, from what I can tell, Heather's friends have dads who are pretty cool. Like they're pretty good. They're good with kids.
Yeah,
And I'm like, shit. Are they like raising the bar too freaking high? But I don't know. I think we're okay.
it's
But
the
I
uniqueness.
never
It's
thought
not
that.
no like other like there's like they have their baseball coach now and stuff like that, and they're different. Like they're like,
Right.
oh, like go do this, and they tell some funny joke, and the kids are like, oh, I really like that joke that they told, and they have teachers and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I try, I just try to keep it unique enough that I'm like, like when you used to do the thing, it's like, oh, I'm the only person on the earth doing this right now.
Yes.
Like you ever have that thought where you're like, I'm the only one doing this one thing and
Most days.
messing it up. Like I'm doing this. Ooh, like nobody else is doing this right now. Like sing flam zoom.
No one
Like
said
you
that.
just yeah.
I do
Nobody's
that sometimes, dude. Charlie and Hannah will say a sentence, and Heather and I'll look at each other, and I'll be like, "Never has been said before by a human."
yeah.
The
Never.
words that they mush together.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I love it.
I was happy to get Leo the like he finally like understood the Superman theme because like at the end it was like bam bada bada bam and he's like yeah yeah like he's getting all pumped up and it's like yum da 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 dum yum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum da da dum 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 da 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 dum da da dum da dum da bam ba ba. He's like yeah like I just saw him like on the edge of the couch like yes
And then you were
and I'm
like,
like
nobody does their job better than John Williams does his.
yes it's just like well it's just like also for the rest of your life now. Like you're going to hear that and you're going to sit up straighter. Like you're going to just have to jump or like have to like move faster. Like it just feels so good, to like now
Dude,
you've got it associated with
mile mile
flying
eight,
around the earth.
mile 18 of the or I mean no, mile 11 of the half marathon. Both of my legs were like bricks. They were like just not really moving. I
uh,
was like just kind of like fuck. They were so tight, and I stumbled on my iPod, my little black mini iPod that had 100 songs on it.
yeah.
It was like this big. It was like a square, and it
Yeah,
just
like the
clicked on.
shuffle, right?
Yeah, it was a shuffle. That. That's how it starts, and I was like, oh, I was like, I'm gonna do this, and it propelled me
yeah.
to finish. Propelled me. It
That's
also
awesome.
probably had a lot to do with the three like hot dog sized gummy gel energy bars that they like handed out as you're like running. I got one, and like my friend got one, and her friend got one, and they gave me mine, and I ate all three of them.
Uh-oh.
And then all of a sudden I was like, I can't digesting. I'm trying to digest though. Stop it.
Yeah, probably not a great idea.
Yeah, I finished.
Um, it was funny. Do you remember that video? that I sent you for your birthday, where we made like the movie trailer where I
Yeah, it
scared my
was
neighbors
amazing.
with like a Joker paint.
And the lasso.
And the lasso took me like 4 days to
Yeah, well,
trace,
it was worth it
and it
because
was
Heather
like
and I were like
it was
looked
like
at each other. Like it was like at the end
it
of
was like
Dexter season
two
4 when
seconds.
Deb's in the tub and you're like, that's what Heather and I were like. Oh, I was like, how the hell did you do that? And then
I
you were like,
painted it by
it
hand.
took me 72 straight hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it was worth it, man, because it was the one thing that Heather and I were like, fuck, how did
It
you
was
do that?
it was like when you do it and then you read the instructions and the people are like, "Hey, if you're going to do this, make sure to do it with like a green lasso or like a green rope or something like that. That way
Yeah,
the software will just find it and move it for you. Otherwise, you have to do it by hand." And then, so I
frame by
basically
frame,
frame by frame I had to move it.
60 frames.
But once you see the first frame, like once you see like the first couple frames of it moving, I'm like, this is worth it. This is fun. Like this will be too much fun to
That's
not do.
cool though, just to get a green one.
But Leo didn't understand. Like when we finished watching Superman, he was like, "Oh, now I know why you played that song when I was dressed up like Superman, like
Oh,
in that." Because
reverse.
he had like no clue. Like
But he
the,
remembered.
Ruby made the Superman costume for him, like the S. Like she just made that out of cardboard, and
Right.
then or construction paper, and then we put it on him, threw him in his PJs. Like we were outside for like maybe 10 minutes.
Oh,
Like it was cold out, and it was like 3 minutes of footage. And then they were like, "Can we get our bikes? Can we get our scooters? Can we get our helmet?" That's why he's like got a helmet on halfway
that's
through it. Like
impressive.
it's like because he's
3 minutes.
it's like Superman in like a helmet. It's like I'm like whatever. I'll just shoot like your chest or something like that. That's why it's like in one part he just has like a helmet on. I'm like, all right. And like and like for some reason all the neighbors were out while I'm like in like I threw the kids were like we're ready, and so then I realized I have to get ready, so then I just started like wiping like white paint. Like I guess it works,
Yeah, I
because it
dude, it
looked
was
looked
so good.
chaotic.
Yeah, right. That's what was cool about it. Like
It is nightmare fuel.
it had verisimilitude.
Yeah,
Everything fit together.
there was like a
Um,
whole. I wrote out like a whole like other plot for it, like it was gonna have
of course he did.
like there was like gonna be some sort of story, but the kids were just like,
Dude,
"We're done. That was fun."
I tried to do a trailer reaction with Hannah. I was like, "Yo, we'll watch the like Across the Spider-Verse trailer together." So she sits down with me. I turn it on. Like 5 seconds into it, I go, "Ooh, there's Gwen," and she goes, "Where?" I'm like, and then she's like, "Where?" I'm like, "We don't rewind. We just watch it and observe, or
We
you
have to
watch."
react.
I'm
We
like,
don't
I'm like,
re-react.
no matter what you think, these kids are going to throw some sort of curveball.
Well,
So three minutes is impressive.
that's the part that surprised me about him watching Superman because because the girls went out to the pool and I was like, "All right, it's me and you, Leo. Do you want to watch Superman?" And he was like, "Sure." And then I went to pick it, and he's like, "Is this a real life one?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Is this?" I'm like, "Do you mean is it a cartoon?" And he's like, "Yeah, is this a cartoon?" I'm like, "No, this is like a real life one." He's like, "Oh," and he just like sat back.
So what is he thinking right now? Is he like,
It's just going to
oh,
be
is it going to
boring as
be,
hell. It's just going to be so
oh,
boring.
like I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get through
And I was like, "Look, you like Star Wars,
it.
like that was fun, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I really like that." I'm like, "Well, this is a lot like that." And he's like, "Does he become Superman?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "All right, I'll watch it."
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "But if I don't like it, can we turn it off and turn something else on?" I was like,
Mm.
"Yeah." But he got through it all. Like
Is
the
it real
credits,
life?
he almost lost it at the credits though. I couldn't. He's like, "Are these almost over?" Like I can't. I'm like, dude, I'm with you. Like, I don't know why I didn't fit. I don't know why I'm sitting here with you. If it wasn't for John Williams on in the background, nobody would watch this part of the movie. Like,
Wait. So funny. How old is he? 6?
yeah,
When did he turn 6?
uh, in March, so he'll be 7 soon in March.
Okay, and Hannah will
First
be
day of
six,
spring. Yeah.
6 in January. Oh yeah, he's like a week before me.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, his due date was like around your birthday.
yeah.
Right? It was like the day after.
Um, because it's funny. There's like this, obviously this huge list of movies that I want to show my kids, but I'm just like, as I like observe them and their viewing habits, I'm like, I think they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's awesome that
Well,
Leah
there were
got
parts
through
of
it.
Superman I was like, I forgot about everyone falling to their death on Krypton.
Oh yeah, I know, dude.
He's like, Dad. I'm like, yeah. Like
I
it's like all the
know.
people are like fall. It's like all red and exploding.
I know. I forgot that too. I feel like maybe we didn't watch that part when we were
He's
kids.
like, Dad, are all those people dying? And I'm like,
Now they land on some
"Mm."
trampoline
And then
somewhere.
it's like the whole planet explodes. I'm like,
He's like, remember the Death Star? Yeah.
So
Ooh.
it went well, but yeah, I know what you're feeling. Like
But
for
now he's
me,
got under his belt.
for Star Wars, I wasn't sure which version to play for them. I was like, which do I just play like the whatever normal version is out? Do I go back and try to find the theatrical version? Like, what should be their first experience with a Star Wars movie?
I know. It's so weird. Like when I don't try to show them things and I just put it on, that's when they'll watch like Avengers. Like I'll be like, "Are you watching like the Gamora scene?" I'm like, "Are you currently like into this?" I was like, "Because this is not a scene that we can watch together. It's quite horrible." Yeah, she's like watching it, so I had to fast forward through it, and then she's like, "Well, what happened? What happened? Rewind, go back." I was like, "You understand too much, but not enough."
Even like the skeletons in Star Wars was kind of like, I'm like, they're like, oh, was that his aunt and uncle?
Oh, dude, and that
I'm like, how did you put that together? Because I didn't figure that out until my 30s that those skeletons were like the aunt and uncle. Like I thought I didn't even notice them. Like I just saw like smoke coming from the thing. I was never paying attention.
didn't see him until I was at least mid to late 30s. I was like, "Oh shit, they're right there," and I'm like, "Wait a minute."
I'm like,
Is
oh
that Lucas didn't digitally put that in? I don't think.
no, that was in the original because we ended up watching
Oh,
the despecialized version,
wow.
which was all as much original footage as it could,
Right.
brightened up a bit. It was like the theatrical, but brightened up, so you can see a bit more. But it was, I was like, oh, but they get through it. I don't know. They see it through different eyes. They're like, oh, okay, so they died, so I guess he's got to leave. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. I guess there's nothing keeping him there anymore. Those are the parts that are like that you don't like. I think those like that scene is kind of a key part that they're not doing that in some of the more recent stuff. Like
What?
they're just placing people in the
What
places
scene?
they
What
need to
scene?
be. Like the when his aunt and uncle are dead.
Yeah, I know. I know,
Like
dude.
because
It's
it that freed him from it. Like he had to
right,
stay as long
right.
as they were around.
No, I have no choice.
But we can't kill them like as the audience, nor should we want them like any harm to come to them, but we need that to happen to for him to not be connected and not have any, when he says like there's nothing for me here, like well
Right.
we got to go, like that lets him go on his journey, so
Call to action.
that almost seems like the most integral part. Like you could say like, oh, they didn't shoot at the droids, they didn't do like all these other things, but
Oh,
like
right.
the killing Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, like that was actually one of the main key points that sent him on the journey,
If
right?
they were still alive, he was
They
not
wouldn't have let him go.
planning. Right.
Yeah.
He wasn't planning on
They would
going
have
with them.
grounded him.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I don't remember. It's like I either blocked it out or I literally just never caught it.
Well, just I mean, I think it as a kid you kind of just breeze over it, or at least I
You
thought
see
you
the
do breeze
smoke and
over
you're
it.
like, oh no, they're gone or something. Luke's
Yeah.
okay. All right, now it's weird. It's almost like, yeah, all right, now you have to be Luke. Just do it.
Of course, then they
What
were
else are you
asking
gonna do?
me.
What else is this movie gonna be about? You got to go do something now.
Ruby was like, "What are they doing to the Jawas?" I'm like, I forgot about that part too. So C-3PO is throwing them onto a burning pile,
Oh right.
and it's just like a really hard thing to explain.
It's like, well, no, they took their cloaks off,
It's just their clothes.
just their
It's just
cloaks,
their cloaks.
heavy, heavy, thick cloaks with hands. Yeah,
I'm ex-
that's another brutal one I forgot about that I don't.
that's the thing. It's like because you're not really looking for it. You're not worried
They don't
about
have a
your own psyche when you're watching it. So it's like
and they don't have a face. That's true, right? You're not like worried about it. You're like, show it all.
no,
Yeah,
but
but
she was also like, I bet there's like kids playing them. They look like they're running around like kids.
sure.
You know, so sometimes she asks like, "What's the? How did they make the make believe? Like, so is it did how did they do this scene and how did they do that? And like we were watching Harry Potter and they were like, how did they go up on the broom? Did they actually spend the time and invent a flying broomstick? And I
You
just like
haven't,
sat
you
there
haven't, you
silent. I'm
haven't,
like,
you haven't graced them with the wonderful term, movie magic.
not
It's
yet.
that's movie magic. It's not really there.
No, because I like letting them guess a little bit. So like we thought there was an
Oh well,
actual
yeah.
hoverboard coming out next summer, right? So can't you know I'm gonna
I
play it
want to
out for as long as I
slap.
want. I'm like, what
I
do
want
you
to
think?
slap the people that called that thing with wheels a hoverboard for so long. I was like,
Oh,
what are we doing? This is the end.
I mean,
Talk about a rush to art.
we just wanted it so bad.
We'll just pretend the wheels aren't there. We're Marty.
It also
We're all
doesn't work on water.
we're all Marty. Yeah, it doesn't work on water unless you got Bo.
I just remember every neighborhood kid saying that, like, "Oh, you didn't know? Like, they're coming out next year. I think like Nerf's making them." I'm like, "What?
I was
Like,
like,
we are all going to be skating on floating boards next year? This is awesome."
yeah. I mean, that was 2015. Oh, yeah, Thursday,
Oh,
October 22nd, 2015. That's crazy. Heather's birthday is October 22nd.
no, there you go.
That's weird
Back
that
to
I
the
haven't.
future day.
Um, I'm kind of disturbed that I haven't really like made that connection yet. Cubs sweep series in 5.
Yeah, what was it like? It was almost a week before November 5th, right? Because that was
Like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
About a week, yeah, whatever. A week and a half.
And then when did the lightning strike? Well, no, that was the 2015 one. That was all different anyway.
Yeah, that was 2.
I always felt like there should have been something with Jennifer's grandmother. Like it seems very odd that she's like, "Oh, I'm staying at my grandmother's house," or when she gives her number to him, she's like, I'm staying at my grandmother's house. Here's her number." And he had that page with him when he went back in time, and I was always wondering if he was gonna like call the number and get like Jennifer's like grandmother or something like it just seemed odd. It just seemed like a little like hook that nothing
Right,
really
yeah, that
caught
they
on.
didn't follow up. Right, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like why was that specifically?
Like they said the line, right? So they
Yeah,
like
right.
otherwise she could have just given him her number. Like, "Oh, here's my number."
It wouldn't have really mattered.
Right.
Why did she specifically point that out?
She's like, "Oh, I'm staying at my grandmother's. Like, here's like call me here."
When was that? Was that in the first one?
Yeah.
Oh,
When
okay.
when the lady comes up and it's like, "Save the clock tower."
Oh yeah.
Like it gives him the green paper and then she writes the phone number on the back of that paper.
That's right. The heart.
And then he shows it to Doc and says like, "See, she loves me because it has like a like I love
The
you
heart.
on it and the heart and like the phone number." So then I thought like Doc was gonna like
Young
call the
Doc.
number or something. I don't know. I just thought something was gonna happen with the
Oh.
number.
Ah. Huh. That would have been neat.
Also, can you explain something to me real quick before we go?
Yeah.
I know it's getting late, but the whole rewatching Endgame,
Mhm.
how how does the time travel work with Captain America?
What do you mean? Oh. So he goes back and puts all the stones back, and then I'm guessing the last one he puts back is the one in 1970, or I forget.
The
What,
one at the army base?
I guess, or maybe one earlier. I can't remember if they got one from an earlier time.
Was he
I don't,
like
I don't
he
think
had like
so.
unlimited Pym particles at that point, right? Like they weren't
And he
like
had the
sending him.
time stone. I don't know if he
Yeah,
knows how
but
to
he
use it.
probably can't use the time stone.
Right. um. Yeah. So then, yeah, it doesn't. It like he would have to like have hopped back after living a full life.
Well, no,
To now.
I think he just took the slow path. Like he went and I think he married her.
Yeah, like he lived with Peggy. He grew old and died. And in Civil War, there's a guy carrying a casket who looks just like he does, all old. Probably a mistake or a coincidence, but they could say that
So
he
so
was there
he
when she died.
so he's carrying the casket, but then
But then, yeah, it's not. It can't be that timeline. It has to be a different
it can't.
timeline.
But then how did he show up at the end if it's not his timeline?
Right. It's like he would have had to do all that and still have the Pym particle, I guess, to have one last, like, once Peggy dies or whatever, jump to where he was and give Sam the shield and all that.
Okay, so
Because
her
remember,
granddaughter that he
he's like, for him, it's as long as he
kisses.
wants. For us, 10 seconds, and that's what happened. It's just
Yeah,
he
yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
take as long as he wanted.
But did he have
Finally,
any kids with her?
you want to tell me about her? No,
Don't think I
I
will.
don't think I will.
No, but I mean, she has her daughter
Joe Biden.
at the her daughter is at the funeral for Peggy,
No, her niece.
which was her.
Sharon Carter's her niece.
No, she at the funeral she says that that she was actually her daughter and that she didn't want to be directly connected with her, so that she said she was her niece.
Oh, because she's like Aunt Peggy in
Yeah,
the speech.
she called her Aunt Peggy, but then well maybe I misheard it, but I thought
Yeah,
I
because then they kiss.
yeah
That's like even grosser than Luke and Leia.
yeah
It's like a new level. Steve and
that's
Sharon.
like what.
That's literally incest.
To be
Child,
fair, just like
child,
Luke, they didn't know, right? So they
correct.
weren't.
Time travel, galaxies, whatever, universes. Um,
So I was just trying to wrap my head around that because I'm like, if that's his granddaughter,
no, yeah, it's her
I just feel
niece,
like that's the sort of thing you just leave a little note and be like, hey, please do not
Agent
assign
13.
my granddaughter across the hall from myself, please.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's
because
also all
she's
the other stuff. There's also
Sharon
like
Carter.
the fact that
They
he
have the
like
same last name.
you know didn't prevent a whole bunch of things that happened.
Right, I know. Yeah, it's
Which
like
maybe you're right then. Maybe we just say maybe he just went that maybe he just did what um um the Scarlet Witch should have done, right? He just picked another universe to just live his life with Peggy, and then he
where
came
like
back
that
at the
where
end.
that Steve never became Captain America, maybe
Right,
where they never even had the program,
right.
or
Or he just died in the ice or something.
right, he's assumed frozen, or I mean, yeah, dead, but he's frozen literally.
Yeah.
So he comes back, and then when he reemerges, he's like, all right, see ya. Because that's right around when she dies anyway.
Right. So doesn't that sort of so Captain America did time travel and happiness better than Scarlet Witch, who
Yep.
had like books that explain it.
Well, she could only do that thing called dream walk, where she could like, you know, take over another version of her, another variant.
Yeah, but she also could have just gotten Stargirl, explained the situation, and said like, "Hey, I want to go live in this other universe where I died, but my boys are there."
I know
Like do a Rick and Morty.
that has to exist, or maybe there wasn't. It was like she's the only one who doesn't have them.
It just seemed odd. It just
You
seems like
know,
a very odd thing, like to have to
seems
tear through.
super easy.
Like if my dad or mom showed up and then killed my mom in front of me, I don't think I'd be ready to go to friendlies with that new mom.
I'd be
Like
like,
I just,
well, all right, you're the same thing. So
you
that
look
was
a
that
lot
was
like my
gross
mom, but
though.
it's
Like,
like you
don't do
kind of
that.
came in and terrified us.
That won't happen again, right? You're like the last one.
Is
It
it?
was funny that yeah, it was like I was pumped that they just were like, she's the villain. I was like, good. But then I was like, what? Then what? This you can't like you can't kill her. She can't die at the end. Like all
Yeah.
these movies, they just cut to the part instead of like building to the part.
And then it's like, yeah, they write the ending to the movie, and then they're like, and then something something, and we get there.
It's like Thor, Cap, and Iron Man were so well done and taken care of.
Yeah,
Maybe Star Lord, and they were gonna do Black Panther, Spider Man, obviously.
they could have just done Black Panther. It's so dumb. Like I feel like they should have just got a new actor, kept going.
I feel like they were all like, I'm like, do you think Chadwick Boseman isn't like a kid needs a Black Panther in the
I
movies?
think
That's
he
why I
said that to
fought
them.
cancer
I
to
think
to
he,
to portray it.
I to just end the character seems way more damaging, and I highly doubt. And it's not really his say.
Of course.
Like it's not like it's not like Clooney comes in and is like, you can't kill Batman in this movie. Like it doesn't make sense. It's a mantle. I think you should treat it with respect. Some people
Right.
don't. You can still recover from it. You know, got many supermen at the moment.
Right. I was going to say there's many versions of the most, loved characters: Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. There's a whole bunch of people that played them.
Yeah. So I don't get why that couldn't.
You should have quickly recast and continued the character.
I
I
think you still
agree.
could have like you still
That
could
was
have.
a rough call, I think.
I would have left the Chadwick title scene in there, like in the beginning. I think that would have been an
Hmm.
awesome touch, and then just go right into like a Black Panther movie, and
Yeah.
and just have like some sort of
In
um,
hindsight, it was like there was too much. It affected it too much, and it shouldn't have
yeah, it was like a funeral, but we're like,
in a movie. There's two funerals. It's like it's tough to get through that movie.
it's weird when like Fast and Furious does it better.
Yeah.
Like they just have that like nod at the end, and he gets off on the off ramp, and it's like, oh, like how is there so much emotion in such a stupid franchise? Like this, like
I know they did it right. They didn't make the whole movie feel like it was like this whole, this
yeah,
movie, a movie with a big hole the whole time
yeah,
you're watching it,
and
and they give
and
you a kiss at the end.
everyone feels like they have to do it too. Like they did it in Ghostbusters with Harold Ramis, which I
Hmm.
like. I like how they did that with Harold Ramis. Like I like that Egon died and then Egon was a ghost, and that kind of makes sense. Except for at the very end, where everyone has to like kneel to him for some, like or acknowledge
I
him.
know,
And
like
like
Egon was. I mean, yeah, Egon was the brains. He figured out the whole thing, but yeah, I felt like he was kind of
I
like,
feel like it could have just been like a little bit lighter. Like
yeah,
just
it's like,
like it
wow,
didn't have to be so like you're not gonna. I don't feel like the tear jerking is gonna happen. Like I feel like it's just got to be like, it was nice that you were there. It's nice that you did this. It's nice that you finished your job.
it's nice that you pulled off the most impossible thing ever,
Yeah,
and not only have a person who's dead in real life appear in a movie, but appear in a movie as a ghost.
yeah. It was like
It's pretty amazing.
I don't know. I
It
wish
was
there. Were,
fun.
I wish there was a Black Panther though. I wish there would be a new one.
I know. Plenty of great actors out there just waiting.
You could have just had like
It'll be
Michael B.
awesome.
Jordan like come in. Like I don't even care. You
I
know,
don't know
like just
why that didn't happen. I think that they were close to doing that, but I think
or just or
he's not
honestly, I
around.
mean, maybe that even causes more problems. But maybe you just have T'Challa. Like you're like, all right, this is T'Challa now. And it's like okay,
Yeah,
and we just keep moving.
yeah.
I mean, I think Don Cheadle did a good job. I don't. I didn't watch the last few episodes of uh, Secret Invasion, but I guess that all got like retconned or something.
Dude,
Like
I don't know what they're doing.
like
I'm like, is Kevin Feige still alive? Is he okay? Because how did he let this go out?
this is
And
just
then you
like
got
the
this
wheels
mother,
just.
you get this director for the Marvels, talking about how she doesn't know what's going on in her own movie. I'm like,
Doesn't
oh,
know what's going
they're just
on.
like they're giving too many people chances. It's like not everyone's going to be the Russo brothers and go from Arrested Development to Endgame. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, honestly, what happened to your Marvel formula? Like, you have a formula. You did it for like 8 years. You just need to kind of move the pieces around. Like, give the people what they want. I don't know. Like, I think you need a villain. I don't know what you're doing with the X Men. That probably would have been a great time to turn the Scarlet
They
Witch
don't
into
know.
it. But I mean, if you had the X Men and then you just started, like, just start that world. That's it. Just that world. Just start building up X Men around.
I think Deadpool 3 will be the only like chance of that happening or like starting to happen.
Probably, but you can't just like wedge it in. Like you
That's
need to
unfair.
have like that Iron Man and then the Thor and then the Captain America and then like build up momentum. It doesn't have to be great. It just has to be
But you also need
unique, you know? With a
Robert Downey
unique
Jr. and
tone.
Chris Evans.
But here's the thing. You need a unique tone, right? Chris Evans is not the best actor in the world. Sorry, Chris. You're
No,
you're good, but you're not
great Captain
the
America.
best. But you did a good job with Captain America, and that movie was set up. That movie was very boring to me. The first Captain America movie was very boring, but it had to be done, and it definitely got done better than the original Captain America that we watched at the Smiths sleepover.
Right.
But
I liked it.
it had its own tone. It was like
Right. Yeah.
clean and
Yeah.
American,
It felt like an old movie. It was weird.
it had him jumping on like the grenade. It told us like a lot about Steve Rogers, right? And like what he had to go to and what he was
I
against
know.
and
I know. And
things like that.
Peggy and how like Peggy was like his soul. Yeah, man. It was like
It paid off
I
later.
just remember Iron Man. Iron Man when the legs, the feet of his all silver suit are like hooking onto him, and I'm like, they figured out a way to do this. It looks real. Like it looks
Yeah.
like a guy who's a genius billionaire built this thing, and it looks fucking cool. And I was
Yeah.
like,
And it's all like manual, like
here we
he points like
go.
the rocket and has to like rip
Yeah.
like like set it on fire with like a spark on his arm and stuff. And it's like,
It was yeah, it was almost like I'm just trying to compare it to something because I know there's other things out there where it's like, I mean, maybe it's like Lost, where it's like that first season of Lost was just like, oh my god, my imagination was like a bomb went off of
yeah.
just like there's endless possibilities for this thing.
See, that's where I would have taken. This is what I would have done. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, what is special about, let's say, Star Wars TV shows? Well, one thing that felt really awkward in the new trilogy was that there were flashbacks. There was like, maybe not in the first one so much. There was like the whole lightsaber thing, but in the second one and third one, there were like these flashbacks. Like there was like the Leia training flashback, which just does like, I'm just thinking like in the original trilogy and in the even the prequels, there were no flashbacks. It wasn't like in the structure of a Star Wars movie to have a
I know.
flashback, right?
And I was always like, they're gonna have to do it because otherwise, like everyone's gonna be like, how did Ben and how did Luke?
Yeah.
And I
But
was
I
like,
was thinking
don't.
like maybe in the TV shows that could have really been more beneficial. And they started doing it with Mandalorian, right? Like he would do something and then he'd have a flashback to
Order
his childhood,
66.
you know, and you know they'd have those flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But
right, when he was getting like attacked by those like crazy droids, and
right,
then the Death Watch saves him.
right,
Right.
exactly. So it
Flashback to
was
that
kind of
whole.
like it kind of gave you a bit more experience by doing the flashback. And then with like Boba Fett, I feel like Boba Fett should have been a lot of flashbacks because Boba Fett, we don't know anything about Boba Fett. Like you know nothing about him. So like we have nothing, we all we know is that he has like a tough voice and cool armor. And that's not enough to go on.
Dude, and then they just like wiped the slate clean, and they were like, "Good guy."
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
don't
"From who though? What do why? What did he
well
go through? He went through the desert. What was he that made him need to go through the desert?"
his stick. He
And
needed
then
a stick.
it was like, yo, that scene in Mandalorian season 2 when Boba Fett shows up and he crushes all the stormtroopers with that stick was neat. Don't overdo it. Don't make his whole identity that one cool moment with the stick.
Don't put him in a bath for half of the series. Like old man takes a bath
Black Chewie can come
for
attack him.
it's like I
Disrespect.
I feel like what that show could have been was like you don't know what mission he's on. He's got some sort of mission. He just got out. He's pissed. He's on a mission. And we don't know what it is and he doesn't tell us and just starts going onto it. And what we do is we get told through flashbacks why he's on that mission. So he just breaks out. Maybe like the first 3 episodes are him getting, you know, his armor back and then getting the slave one back. And then, you know, going to certain places and just breaking through
I love
security to recollect all these items until we finally piece it all together at the end. You know, it's like,
I love a show or a movie where the main character is Link and they just collect weapons and helping, tools and things to
yeah.
along the way,
Well,
that's
this
like
would
gonna
be more like
to
Metroid, like
grow.
where you lose all the pieces that you had and you'd have to recollect them, but to get to the end,
Oh yeah.
she always
Oh yeah,
loses.
that's right.
She always loses everything in the very beginning of every game. So she has all the powers and then she loses them all. And she
Well,
has to get them all back.
I never played it. I probably because it was because Zelda. Um, Disney Plus. I have a bad feeling about this. It's just ABC. It's like what we had on NBC or on ABC shows and whatever movies is what we're gonna get on Disney Plus. It's like a Boba Fett show belongs on HBO or Amazon,
Right.
not Disney Plus. It's like you're
Everything's
gonna
all
get
over with
you're
Disney
gonna get
Plus.
like
Like,
the Han Solo, the Solo of everything.
yeah,
So
it,
it's Ron Howard. It's fine, but it's not what it should be.
yeah, it's too disconnected. It like
Yeah.
again, it comes down to tone. You can't have the Boba Fett show have the same tone as Mandalorian, have the same tone as Ahsoka, have the same tone as Obi-Wan. Like the thing that worked with the Avengers was that Thor's movies weren't anything like Iron Man movies, weren't like anything like Captain America movies. And I think part of what started going off the rails towards where we are now is that they started having the same tone.
They're all the
Thor
same.
movies started having the Guardians tone.
Dude, it's all
And
sky beams.
well, it's all sky beams, but it's also like ever since Ragnarok, which I did enjoy, but it
Right.
changed the tone of Thor.
It changed a ton of the MCU.
Right. And then everybody started getting,
Uh-oh.
even Captain America started getting more like the Guardians tone. What was wrong?
Nothing. I was
Oh,
just
I
thinking, I'm
think,
like, this Marvel's movie is gonna be that 100%. It's gonna
well,
be
this Marvel's
a
movie, I mean,
rainbow.
this is going to be nothing. It's going to be like
I know. I mean,
nobody watched the Miss Marvel. I didn't.
oh, I did. I
The
loved it. It was
Did you
awesome.
really?
Yeah, her family was awesome.
Oh, I didn't watch
They're
it.
great. It's way more. It's like Blue Beetle. It's like her family's the supporting cast.
Hmm.
So it was charming, but it was really bad. Like the bad guys were on another level horrible, just like Secret Invasion.
Oh,
It's just like, yo, you didn't think of a bad guy. You were just like, we'll do a good guy show. Who are the bad guys? Oh, there aren't that many. They're all X-Men. We haven't introduced them. We have to introduce them. All right, man.
well, we gotta go.
My tailbone is at its peak.
All right,
Great time, man.
all right. Have a good night. Dishes are done.
Dishes are done, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too.